All right. And we are live. Welcome to the Iron Lords podcast, episode number 60. It's another glorious Sunday, and we are back at the round table on the Lord's Day. I'm very excited about our special guest, and we've got the future of Halo, Xbox financials, Detroit Became Human demo, QuanticDream versus the French media, and the future of the Nintendo Switch to discuss. So we're going to get right into it.
Oh, God, Nintendo Switch. Okay.
Yeah, your favorite.
I didn't even know that was a topic. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see. I'm joking.
I want to introduce a Lord who, in my opinion, is one of the top journalists in the game. Whether it be his informative news articles, passionate opinion pieces, and detailed product reviews, this Lord always exemplifies professionalism, yet at his core remains a true gamer at heart. Although this Lord is fearless and outspoken with his opinions, he is always willing to engage in a respectful debate while still being one of the most humble and approachable personality in these gaming streets. Introducing the Xbox/Microsoft editor for WindowsCentral.com and the co-host of the Xbox 2 podcast, the Lord of sarcastic humor, fellow cat lover, and the only Lord capable of rocking a tiara with the utmost royal swag. Making his long-awaited debut into the realm of the Lords, my man, Lord Jez Corden. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. That was some intro.
I told you the red carpet was going to be rolled out for you, man. Oh, man, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's warm. I got caffeine in me. Ready to talk some games.
Woo!
Playing games all weekend. Had a pretty good game weekend. Good sesh. I didn't not to do too much work.
Good, man.
So I've been editing a lot of State of Decay 2 footage.
Ooh, that's
Tease.
I know.
Ooh, tease. We like that. We like that. Huge fan of Undead and those guys. We got a chance to most of the Lords got a chance to touch it at PAX East, and man, we were impressed. So that we can't wait to see what you got cooking up with that. And yeah, huge fan of what you do. So it's only right that we show the proper respect at the round table. So let's get into the four horsemen of gaming. My co-host with the co-most, my brother from another mother, the difficult game conqueror, and the howl of the young wolf. My man, Lord Addict, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I guess we're going to talk about this Switch stuff, but we'll get into that later.
Disgusted by this.
It's glad to be here, and it's glad to have someone as royal as Lord Jez here with us. So let's get this going.
Absolutely, man. We got Jez in the building. It's going to be some fun. And of course, we have our most technical gaming Lord, the solo gamer who lives for the single player selfish experience, and also the Sostradamus, Mr. Offline Profile Illuminati himself, my man, Lord Sovereign. How you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, man. Doing great. Recovering from Infinity War. Had to like soak all of that in, take it in a little bit at a time.
Oh yeah. A lot of people are in the recovery mode.
Oh man. Yeah, definitely. So that's it. That's pretty much it since yesterday.
No doubt. And of course, the incredible Hulk of this, aka the Excess Gamer.
Ooh.
The Lord of Combat Sports, who is a man of his convictions, demands nothing less than the premium experience. It is the Get Money Gamer.
Ooh.
Beloved Lord King, how you doing, sir?
We are doing incredible, like the Hulk. You see this? Do you understand what this is? Stormbreakers, guys. This is exactly what Stormbreaker looks like.
Oh my!
You know what? I've never
King has it.
I've always wondered what I'd like to hit you with, and now you've answered that.
Yeah, as long as you see it, and I weld it, I'm gonna bust your forehead with it. Anyway,
some people's dreams, but it would never come true.
Listen, I get close enough to you, I'm gonna sting you with it.
You're gonna sting me with this.
Listen. All right, so we had some combat sports last night, and I'm gonna get to it real quick. It's gonna be that's right. Addict, slide out, fall asleep. Take your no-dose pills.
God.
I gotta say, that Eddie Hearn
I don't
is
need
a
to take 2 minutes
complete
to talk about this.
snake oil salesman, and it's horrible what he does to boxing. Him and HBO is destroying what boxing should be, what combat sports is all about. They put together a crappy show last night. I must say, Danny Jacobs almost lost to a tomato can, a bum butt man. And it was funny. It was good. I wish he would have lost yesterday because you're putting crap together. I'm not going to get into it, really, be honest with you. To tell you the truth, combat sports put me to sleep last night. But you know what kept me awake? Infinity War! Oh! Make sure you go see this. I don't care what you're doing. Take the babies during the week. If you got kids and you got to watch them, take your kids with you. It's good. It's good, too. The family is a fun family film. Or sneak and go see it alone. But I'm gonna tell you to make sure that you see this. If you're a Marvel head or if you just love action-packed good movies, go see it.
Yes,
I got to see it multiple times. I'm not gonna give any spoilers. I'm gonna give you 1 week to see it, and I'm going in very hard next week. But no combat sports today. Jez is in the building. We're about to do this whole shebang. I got Stormbreaker. And I got Millionaire in the back, but he's broken because Hella tore him up. So I'm going to keep Stormbreaker right now because that's the thing that's smoking right now.
Oh, my God. Real quick, thank you, Lord King, for our combat sports recap. Lord, I'm going to ask you, I know there was just one MMA fight there. So did you see it?
No, you know what? It was a battle of the old men, and I did not see it. No, and I don't know the result. So
you know what it is?
I'll
Eddie
give
Hearn
it to you
probably
real
put
quick
it
because
together.
we don't want to put Lord Jez to sleep. But
Yeah, Eddie Hearn probably did it. Yo, and you know what's funny? He's laughing because he knows Eddie Hearn. I know he do because Eddie Hearn is over there across the pond, and he knows he's no good. He knows he's no good.
Yeah, man. It was pretty much a battle of the old men, and we had the last emperor, Fedor Emelianenko.
Oh.
And he was fighting one of the veterans of UFC, Frank Mir. So it was a 1-round bombastic slugfest. And surprisingly, the old man, the last emperor, KO'd Frank Mir, put him to sleep in the fetal position.
Wow.
Took a nap.
Yeah,
it was bad. I mean, he rocked Fedor. I mean, actually, Frank rocked Fedor first. And then Fedor they literally just going. It was a slugfest. They were just literally going at it. He caught him with a hook, and the next thing you know, his body was asleep.
That's crazy because Frank is bigger than Fedor, and at this point, Fedor, Fedor's. If you ever watch Fedor's old fights, like he is scary to stand in front of because he comes at you like an animal.
Yes.
Like he swings with reckless abandon. He swings to kill you. Kill you.
Yes.
Sidebar: Frank Mir trains at Mayweather's boxing gym.
Yeah, and you know what it is? He actually tagged him early. The problem is Frank's chin at this stage of their career. Both of them, their chins are not what they are. So it is what it is. So salute.
They got old man jaw.
Yeah, salute to the old goats out there putting on a show for Bellator.
Your bed not good enough.
No doubt. And of course, we have the Shinobi Gaming Ninja himself, Lord Cognito, spreading that realness in the realm of the ILP, not telling you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. So before we get into what the Lords are playing this week, I want to start off with Lord Jez, his video game system history, his passion for the Microsoft brand and journey to Windows Central, and of course, what led him to the creation of one of my favorite podcasts, and one of my favorite content creators, Lord Rand, in the Xbox 2. So, Lord Jez, let's start from the very beginning on a gaming level. What were the first kind of video game systems that you had?
Oh man, the first video game system I had was the Sega Master System.
Woo!
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, you starting over the fight.
Loving that.
We're Sega kids. We're biased.
Let's go.
I was a Sega kid through and through. And, for economic reasons, for some reason, Nintendo games were way more expensive in the UK than Sega games.
Thank God.
And I had there was like a second-hand store near where I lived, and they always had Mega Drive games, but they never had Nintendo games ever. So I did have a Super Nintendo, but I only had Super Mario All Stars, Yoshi's Island, Super Metroid, and Star Wing, as it was called in the UK. It was called Star Fox in America, I believe. I don't know why. It had a different name in the UK, but it did for some
That's
reason.
interesting. Maybe some type of license issue?
Copyright thing.
Yeah.
Probably. Like the N64 Star Fox was called Lilac Wars in the UK.
What?
What was it called? Lilac Wars?
Lilac Wars. I don't know why.
Oh,
It's the same game, just a different name. So, but yeah, I mostly played on Sega systems. So like, you know,
Nice.
Streets of Rage, Gunstar Heroes,
Let's go.
Sonic. You know, that's Sonic. The treasure games, man, like Dynamite Heady and stuff like that. I love
Yeah, I like that.
Remember that?
Altered Beast.
What? All right, you bringing up the feels now. Let me back you up one second. You went Sega Master System. So my question was, you said the Nintendo games were more expensive in the UK at that point. Now, did you ever had a classic NES, or you just skipped that and went Sega Master System straight to Genesis?
I didn't even know the NES existed. I think I was like, but you got to bear in mind, I was like 6 years old or something back then.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I had I had a Sega Master System, and then I think my neighbor had a Mega Drive, so I copied them, and I also got a Mega Drive, Sega Genesis. Even the Mega Drive had a different name in the UK.
Really?
Sega Genesis in America, but it was called the Mega Drive everywhere else in Japan. And,
Right.
And then I was in hospital for 6 months because I had a burst appendix, but it went untreated. So I had sepsis.
Sepsis.
I was
Wow.
really ill. And when I was in hospital, I was bedridden, but I had a Super Nintendo that the hospital provided, and I just played Mario all day, every day, for weeks. And then when I got out of hospital, my parents got me a Super Nintendo as like a getting out of hospital present. So then I had a Super Nintendo. Then I got a PlayStation 1.
Okay.
And I think
what were some of the first titles for the PlayStation 1 that you had?
Well, see, now, I don't know if it was like this in America, but in the UK, most PlayStation 1s were bundled with Crash Bandicoot, which is why, like, when Crash Bandicoot launched again recently, it was like shot straight to the top of the UK charts because every kid in that generation had Crash Bandicoot because it was just bundled with the PlayStation 1. So, Crash Bandicoot. Man, I had so many games, and I've still got them. I've still got my PS1 games, like
Nice.
Dino Crisis, Nightmare Creatures, Oddworld games, Resident Evil. I was so excited for Resident Evil 2.
Oh yeah,
like I was hyped out of my mind. I bought every magazine that had Resident Evil 2 on the cover. I've never been more hyped for a game before.
Me too.
I was like sick with excitement for that game.
Dude, that game, it was so funny that you mentioned it because I had the same level of excitement. Resident Evil 2 definitely resonated with me. And the thing about it was, remember you had to go through like a second playthrough with the second disc or something like that?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Lord King and Lord Sov. We affectionately named that character that appears unbeknownst to us. We called it Milladon. Basically, it was, what was it, the Nemesis that came through and started.
It didn't have. I don't think it actually had. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if it even had a name in the game.
Yeah, it did. It was the most unspoken feature.
It was like a code name or something, like a T017 or something, like Tyrant.
Tyrant.
Yeah, great. Everyone at school used to call it the Hulk. Do you guys have a nickname for that thing?
Yeah, we called it Milladon. We just made up a name. I was so terrified when that thing burst through the wall, and then it would continually chase you and harass you like the.
I was terrified. Because
I was terrified of that thing.
The Resident Evil games had like they had like set rules, didn't they? Like because they had static backgrounds, and you expected the game to have these rules. And then you get used to monsters not being able to go through doors and stuff like that. And then the Hulk, well, I call it the Hulk. The Hulk, he was able to break through some of the walls and stuff. And then they took it even further with Nemesis.
Yes.
Any game
based on it, that mechanic.
Yeah. I don't think any game terrified me as much as the first time I played Resident Evil Nemesis, because it was like I must have been like 11 years old, 11 or 12. And I played Resident Evil 3, and like the first time you see him is outside the police station. I remember it like it was yesterday. My memory is nowhere near this good now.
We had people that were big time Resident Evil heads who refused to play 3
Yeah.
because of that mechanic, because it was so different than the other games. Like, I'm not
was
playing.
terrifying, man. It was so terrifying.
Completely horrible because it just bust out stars. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And you'd run all the way back to the save room, which is like the only safe place. But then
Yep.
even the save room music, which was usually like sort of
Yeah.
Yes,
calming.
music.
Yeah, it was like ominous, and it's like, you know, when you leave the save room, he's gonna come
bust
back
me in the
again.
head. Yeah, he was like outside
Perfect.
there. You're like, oh no.
Perfect.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that because for me, yeah, Resident Evil 2 had that effect. It's probably one of my favorite. And I guess because of the success of
Incredible.
that character, they made a whole, thing for part 3. You know what I'm saying? So I agree.
But the game that really made me fall in love with the hobby and stop seeing it just like a toy, I guess, was Final Fantasy VII. Because now this is a weird story. My parents used to buy me games sometimes when like I did well at school or whatever, and they bought me Men in Black 2 for the PlayStation 1.
Oh no.
And I was like,
where's the love?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I can't play this game. So I took it back to the shop and I was like, I want to exchange this game for something. And the guy in the shop was like, well, why don't you try this? This is quite popular apparently. And he just gave me Final Fantasy VII. Exchange for Men in Black. I'd never heard of Final Fantasy in my whole life. Like, there was no internet back then, and I didn't have many gaming friends and stuff like that. So I'd never heard of Final Fantasy, and I was like, wow, this is the 7th game, and and I was like, whoa, it's on 3 discs. It's like, what is this? This game must be huge. And at first I was like, what are these little cartoon characters and all this stuff? And then like as I played it, it's just addictive, and I named all the characters after my school friends.
Nice.
I just got sucked into that game like nothing else.
Great game. That's a big one for Addict, man. But Final Fantasy VII is on your list too, right, Addict?
Yeah, 7. Actually, 7's really good.
Oh, you woke up?
But I feel like I woke up. Get out of here. You act like if I don't talk like literally the entire 2-hour podcast, I've been asleep for at least 30 minutes. Once you stop making fun of me and go back on Amazon where you want to be. So, okay, like, get off of my back.
Continue, Lord Addict.
When it comes to Final Fantasy VII, I feel like 7 helped, brought the whole franchise on it. But I don't know why, but 10 has more of a remnants on me than 7 does.
Now everyone's got a different favorite.
That's a good point.
No, my
7 is like
9.
Yeah. I think my favorite one is still 7, just because of the impact it had. I'd never played anything like that before.
My least favorite one is 8. Like,
I think Lord Jez has a point because 7. As great as the others was, and I was kind of new. I want to say I was new to RPGs, but I think 7. I don't want to say it casualized RPGs, but it opened up an audience that never experienced it before, being that it was on PlayStation, and the fact, let's keep it real, graphically at its time, 7 was amazing, and I'll never forget what. At least for me, Lord Jez, what really did it for me is the summons. Remember the summons, Lord Jez?
Oh yeah. Just the fact that like every 5 minutes.
Oh man, I remember having the Leviathan. You had the little materials. Remember you had the little material, you put it in, and it was just like wow, it was just cinematic event. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, yo, I've never seen
Knights of the Round. Do you remember Knights of the Round?
That's
the most ridiculous summon ever.
I think that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in gaming in general, because it's not hard, it's just tedious. It's like, oh my gosh, bro. Like come on, like
absolutely.
I've beat that game like at least 10 times. I've only had Knights of the Realm once.
Wow.
Because I got it one time and I was like, that's good enough for me. I never need to get it again. But see, I'm playing it on the PS4 and there's actually a trophy for it. So I'm sitting there dead-eyeing the trophy and I'm like, dude, is it really worth it?
Yeah, shout out to Disney Chat. A lot of people missed the material system. Man, yeah, 7 was iconic, man. So you went from PlayStation, you had all that great stuff. Now, when did your Xbox and Microsoft situation start?
I was quite lucky because I got lots of siblings. I was the oldest, and like as I got older, they got into gaming. So like I didn't have to buy Nintendo consoles because my brother got really into Nintendo and he bought the N64. N64, the Pikachu edition with the red rosy cheeks. I don't see it's the lamest console, but also the most awesome console ever. We had the N64, and then he bought the GameCube and Resident Evil remake on that. So I got to play that as well. But like they weren't my consoles; they're my brother's consoles. Whereas I sort of went the other way, and PlayStation 2 and stuff like that. And then I bought the original Xbox with because at the time the UK government were paying kids to stay in school.
Really?
So, yeah,
we need that arrangement. What's that about?
They got rid of it now. But, seriously, at the time,
not like stuff that's relevant to everyone. Like,
well, it was you could argue it was a bit of a waste of money because like they were paying kids from poorer backgrounds about $40 a week to stay in school, right? Wow. And so I was getting like $40 a week just for turning up to school. Used to go into school, get my check mark, and then climb under the fence and go back home.
Shout out to Lord Jez, collecting that.
Lord Jez was a scam.
Everyone did that. It was like nobody.
I would have did it too, Jez. I would have got 2 checks.
Nobody I knew was spending that money on educational stuff. They were spending it on like we used to just go to a supermarket and buy a remote control car and drive it around the playground and then just leave it there. Everyone was just wasting their money.
Childhood.
Luxury, excess at its finest.
Yeah. All these poor kids had money and they didn't know what to do with it. Buying cake, buying ridiculous, huge birthday cakes and wedding cakes and just leaving them there.
The diabetes at this period of time has skyrocketed.
But I saved my money and I bought the original Xbox on a whim just because because me and my brother had this thing like we need to own every console somehow amongst
you sound like Lord King.
Yeah. And so I bought the original Xbox, but I didn't have that many games for it again. I just used to buy all the multiplats on the PS2. So like I only really had Halo on the Xbox, and like I bought all the multiplats on the PS2. And I missed a lot of those classic original Xbox games that were Xbox exclusive. I missed a lot of them.
Like Halo?
No, Halo was the only one I did have.
Oh, okay.
Like I felt like there was no marketing for any of the other games, so I just wasn't really aware of them. So, but then when it came to the PS3, Xbox 360 generation, Sony just priced me out of the market with the PS3. It was just like
$600. Oh, how many pounds? How much pounds was it? Was it equivalent? Like
I can't remember, but it was just too much. Gotcha. I was just like, no, I'll just get a 360 because it was significantly cheaper and and at the time it was like the PS3 came with Blu-ray, it came with Wi-Fi built in. And it was like, I don't need either of those.
There's very few. There's very few times in like marketing history to where it's not even like a joke. Like you see it, that's just like, are you serious?
It's kind of like what happened this generation. But continue.
I didn't even have a Wi-Fi router back then. I just plugged straight into the Ethernet, just Ethernet. So I just bought an Xbox 360 and never looked back.
Nice.
But but again, I wasn't really that into 360 at the time because I started getting more into PC gaming.
Oh, so that's when you kind of
World of Warcraft. I lost years of my life to World of Warcraft. Anyone knows me on Twitter. They'll know that. So
was you one of those guys that was farming the gold that I was sending money to?
Yeah, maybe.
I had to get off that game when I realized that in 1 week I spend like 100, then the following week I spend 150 to get gold, and I said, "Yes, God is right." You understand? It got to the point that it was horrible, and I had an online wife. It was like,
oh my God!
Yo, listen, I didn't know if it was a guy or a girl. I didn't know because you couldn't really talk, but we would meet up and she would make me stuff because she was a wizard and she was able to make clothes. That was like her skill tree. Attila. and she would make me magical clothes, and we would lay down, take off all our clothes, lay there spoon for like at least 15 minutes, and then after we spoon for 15 minutes, we would go and kill. And I really, I'm telling you right now, Lord Sovereign knows, because I got Lord Sovereign into the game. He knows my woes with that game. That game.
Here's the plot twist.
Everyone knows the woes now.
What's the way? Jez, what's the plot twist? What's the plot twist?
Sovereign was.
Wow, that's not it. You know what? I knew it wasn't him because he's the soloist gamer. He's been that guy forever.
I played that game for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Once the gold addiction started setting, I said, nope, that's it. I cut it off. I said, let me go back to my Half-Life 2. Let me go back to my Doom 3. No, I was not messing with Warcraft after that.
That game is. I was scared of it. I heard stories, and I remember Lord King used to tell me to play it, how intense it was. I was like intimidated by that game. So I was like, I can't. That game looks too addictive. So I stayed away from it.
It was bad. I was the guy from the South Park episode. Literally, I was literally that guy. You know, I didn't go outside. I didn't have a job. I just played World of Warcraft all day, every day. And I was like, I'm going to be the best damn paladin on this planet. You know?
Nice.
And so I lost years of my life to that, and I missed a lot of early 360 years because of that as well.
Because of that game.
Nice.
Because of that game. But then my PC broke.
Your PC broke.
Yeah, my PC broke, so that sort of sent me back to the 360.
Okay.
Man, this is a long story, but
go for it.
Quite honestly, it wasn't really Xbox that made me get into Microsoft blogging.
Tell me.
It was actually Windows Phone, believe it or not.
Really?
Because it kind of was Xbox, but like I heard that on Windows Phone you could get Xbox achievements for playing mobile games. So that was literally the selling point for me to buy that phone.
Nice.
And also there was this girl whose boyfriend. Like, this is the first time I'd ever encountered a fanboy, a tech fanboy, right?
Talk to me.
He was an Apple fanboy. He had an Apple logo stuck to his front door. And he didn't like me because I was good friends with his girlfriend. So to piss him off, I started saying how great Microsoft was all the time. and I got it was because of him that I got a Windows Phone, just to contradict his iPhone. But somehow I got like in my crusade to piss him off. I learned a lot about Microsoft and their ecosystem and what they're planning to do.
Nice.
I was offsetting his Apple fanboyism. And then I discovered like Microsoft making this ecosystem where they've got Xbox on all these devices, and I was like, "Whoa, this is actually quite interesting." And
your level of trolling.
So hold up.
That could get you into something very nice. Thank God for trolling.
I got to follow up on this. So let me get this straight. You went on a long-term con to upset someone, and then you ended up flipping around on you, and you ended up actually committing to what you were trying to make him think.
Yeah, that's the truth of it.
The biggest question is, did you get the girl?
Was it success? Was the mission successful, Lord Jez?
Well, I wasn't gunning for the girl.
So you were just trolling, just to troll. You were just out here.
It was like, you know, in anime, like where they say the childhood friend never wins.
Yeah,
she was like she was a childhood friend, you know. I met my current girlfriend around the same time, so it worked out. So but you know,
she probably
basically,
said, what's that?
It was trolling that got me into this game.
Shout out to Lord Jez for trolling and getting into Microsoft's ecosystem.
the first troll.
That's pretty amazing. Now, real quick before, as you know, we know you're synonymous with Windows Central and stuff like that. So I'll start with the journalistic journey. Like, how did that whole start? I know what the connection you had, that love there, starting there, but how did you actually get into the quote unquote industry?
Well, it was I was working as an IT technician at a school at the time, and I self-taught web design when I was at school. Again, to troll people.
I love that you troll so much. I love it.
Kind of sad, really. But
no, but your trolling has made benefits in your life. So troll on, brother. Troll on.
You know, I had to learn. I had to learn web design because we wanted to set up forums to talk about games, and we set up Unreal Tournament forums and stuff like that. So I learned web design because I wanted my PHP forum to look nicer. And so when I was working at this high school, their websites really sucked, and I was just like, I can make those websites, maybe. So I updated my skills using YouTube, and then there was that guy who I was trolling, and I was starting to get really passionately into disproving him. And then the whole Xbox One thing dropped. Now he was like one of those guys who were like in 2013, oh my god, Microsoft, they're evil, DRM, blah blah blah.
And then all that happened.
Yeah, all that stuff blew up, and I was sucked into it so much that I was like, and he was a Twitter user as well, so I got on Twitter to contradict him again, and I just sort of saw that there was this sort of community of like bloggers and YouTubers, like much like yourselves and Windows Central and stuff like that. I discovered Windows Central, and I was like, you know what, I want to do this stuff as well. And I've taught myself web design, and I met this guy called Liam Pond, who's on Twitter at Liam Pond. Shout out to him. He's
Shout out to Liam Pond.
He used to be called at Xbox Mad UK.
Oh, I remember Xbox Mad. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I met him, and he was like pretty vocal in the Xbox community, and he supported the original 2013 vision.
Nice.
I supported it as well, and we were like, you know, console warring, you know, defending it and stuff like that.
You're defending. You're fighting a good fight.
Fighting a good fight, yeah. You know, fighting a losing battle, you know, but, as is often the case writing about Microsoft. But we from there we made XboxMad.net. You know, we made a blog site just to copy other blog sites, really, just writing about stuff. But somehow I discovered that I was pretty good at it, and we were the only website at the time writing about Windows Phone from an Xbox perspective. So the Nokia PR team got in touch with me.
Nice.
They were like, we wanna elevate you, you know. So we want to invite you to Barcelona to see the next Windows Phone get revealed in Barcelona. And I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. So I went to Barcelona.
Nice.
On Microsoft's dime.
Holla.
And I covered the launch of the Lumia 640, this, you know, terrible slow phone. But it was amazing because I did my first interview with Nokia VP of marketing and stuff like that, and I posted the interview on Xbox Mad, and I talked about like could we see Xbox evolve on phones and stuff like that. Blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
That got upvoted on Reddit, and then Daniel Rubino, who runs Windows Central, sent me an email and offered me a job. And I was like,
awesome.
Oh my god, okay.
So then you became that
your way all the way up the ladder.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's how you do it, baby. No, but that's awesome.
I ordered an $80 whiskey on Microsoft's credit card in Barcelona.
Did you have your feet up at that point? Did you know you made it? Did you feel like you made it?
I was like, this is never going to happen again. So I'm going to make the most of it. And I asked the barman, give me the most expensive whiskey you got because it's on their tab.
Oh, that was very premium. That was very premium. Shout out to Lord Jez for ordering that most expensive.
I feel guilty now, but
don't worry. You're going to get a bill in the mail today. Somebody someplace is sitting there saying, there it goes.
I was like, it was just surreal. It's still surreal. I've been here for 3 years now.
No doubt. That's awesome. That's actually a very cool story. So I wanted to next transition forward with the into the podcast game, because obviously you are part of one of my favorite podcasts with Lord Ran and the Xbox 2. How did that get started?
Well, I had my own podcast with Matt Brown at Windows Central, but because workloads are quite crazy at Windows Central, some days I'd have to postpone wouldn't match with him postponing. So there'd be times when like we wouldn't podcast for like several weeks because neither of us had the flexibility. But Rand does have the flexibility. So like if I need to delay because of work, he's able to do it on Thursday or Friday, which is really great.
Very cool.
So and Rand's a great guy. Like,
yeah, Rand's awesome.
I think we have pretty good chemistry. We don't always agree on everything, but you know that's what makes podcasting interesting, I guess.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I can't even remember how the podcast came about. I can't even remember.
Okay, can't even remember the first one. Okay.
We did our 51st episode.
Yeah, you guys in the 50s now. Like I remember like kind of the early things. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting pairing. And then I kind of listen to you guys, and then like you said, like the chemistry you guys have. But what you said, which I like about it, and which I actually love about our podcast, is that we all don't agree. There's gonna be times where we're
Nobody
like, no.
agrees with Addict.
King and Addict definitely are polarizing at times. You know what I'm saying? Probably Saw was the closest to me, but even sometimes we go at this sometimes as far as this.
I resent that.
Woke up, huh?
You know what I'm saying? And I love the fact that you guys still get along, but at the same time have different viewpoints on stuff. And I actually love how passionate you get with with certain things in reference to the fanboys and the console wars.
I get myself into trouble so much.
Yes, sir. That's how I found out about you, sir. I was sitting there and my timeline was going retarded, and I said, "What the hell is going on?" I said, who is Jez? And why is everybody going at Jez? And then I actually saw the genesis of it. We was at PAX when you blew up to me. This recent PAX had just happened, and we're walking through, and we was with another Jez, and I'm texting somebody because they tweeting me, they DM me. It got so horrible that they got off of regular Twitter and started DMing me. So I'm like, I'm with Jez right now. He said, not that Jez, you idiot. This Jez. So I said, what Jez is this? And I looked at your profile and then I started going through the timeline with the tweets. And then I'm like, I'm on Jez's side. Right? I said, what the hell? No way. What he said was right. I said that. So needless to say, you blowing up last couple of weeks.
Jez has been hot out here these streets.
Dig into that history, and you were popping. I mean, you were trending something crazy. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I have this tendency to tweet first and think later, which makes me in trouble so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, because I had like 70 mentions.
You definitely set the internet ablaze, the social space ablaze. We actually, our last poll question, we'll get into the polls in a little bit.
It's fine though. Sometimes Twitter needs a little fire.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And, obviously the whole situation, we had a poll question about media bias and things of that nature. So we'll get into that. But what I was going to say real quick before we move on with your history, as far as I know you're a fan of the Long Dark franchise like myself.
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Love that game. Absolutely love that game. So and then shout out to Raphael, I believe. He's really cool. One of the devs on the game. I remember meeting him when it was initially in a game preview. But I wanted to get to your top 5 video games of all time. It could be, you could just go the games itself or the franchise.
Whenever people ask me these questions, I always respond with the first thing that comes to mind, because if you overthink it, then it's kind of wrong. The first thing that came to mind straight away was Final Fantasy VII, because of what I owe it in terms of getting me into gaming, I guess. I've got to say World of Warcraft, even though it's World of Warcraft is weird because most of my memories of that game are just sort of anger. I played it so much that no other game. I have I added up all the playtime of all my characters, and I think it came out to over a year playtime. So I think no other game in history is going to achieve that.
Exactly. So you already see the impact. That's the impact that it had on you. Absolutely.
Had a huge impact. Like I've still got like my best friend in real life that I've got right now. I met him in World of Warcraft.
Wow, that's what's up.
He moved to he was from Northern Ireland, and he moved to the UK for work, and then he ended up moving to a city near to me for work.
Wow.
So we went from being World of Warcraft friends to being real friends.
Yo, dude, straight up. I mean, we've had this discussion before when we did the Game Struck 4 last ILP, and Halo had that effect for us. And I know for me personally, I know a lot of people hate it, but Destiny had that effect for me. I mean, one of my podcast mates that I do a Destiny podcast with, Bontes, I met him at like a Destiny con because we are so crazy for this stupid game when it first came. It's flawed as it
goes. That's how I met monkeys.
Yeah,
that's how I met hot monkeys.
Absolutely. Shout out to Frodo. There's so many friends. So I'm glad that you mentioned World of Warcraft because in that space, because it just chose to show you the impact of the game and how real friendships can be formed because of it.
Yep. Three more.
Yeah, 3 more. Let's go.
Pretty hard, like I can't help but say I think Monster Hunter World is slowly slipping into that top 5 now.
Wow.
Because I've got 160 hours played on that now, and it's like I don't think I've played a game this gen as much as Monster Hunter World now. It's so great, it's so deep. They keep adding new content to it. They recently added Call of Taroth, which is like this giant golden dragon. And it's not just like they added a monster and just dumped it into the world. They did a whole new system for this boss fight where you fight it through like this huge cave, like a siege. You got cannons and all this stuff, and the loot mechanics are different. It almost reminds me of like when they first added Ragnaros to World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Like they had the base game, the base end game, and then they built on that end game. And if Monster Hunter World keeps doing this, I think it's going to be absolutely huge.
Absolutely. The content that they've been adding has been tremendous. You got 2 more. What you got?
God.
Come on the spot.
I want to say I really want to say BioShock, the original BioShock.
Nice. Good choice.
I think that was just a stunning shooting game.
Absolutely.
Plot twist was crazy. And like whenever people ask me favorite games, that's one of the games that pops into my head.
Absolutely. One more.
Man. I'm gonna have to say again off the top of my head.
Off the top.
Resident Evil 2, probably.
Nice.
Again, it was just such a tremendous game at the time.
Very impactful.
Yeah, another game that just blew my mind. And
absolutely.
It had an influence on me. I still to this day dream about zombies. Resident Evil 2 zombies, man. To this day.
What about the dogs? Did the dogs were they in there too?
No. Always just zombies.
No doubt, man. Tremendous history. Love hearing about that as far as your games and as far as your journey. So that's real cool. So we're gonna get into this poll and these topics, get this thing popping. So last week poll results are in, and the people have spoken to the question: when neutral gaming media outlets run imagery or articles that may be perceived to poke fun of one platform over another, do you consider this to be media bias against that platform? The winner at 42% in a 4-way ILP poll, pretty much cruising to victory, was the yes. There are some journalists who have bias group. Coming in at second at 27% was the shallow group. You mad because your platform is taking L's. The shallows were in the building. They were second place, y'all. Coming in at third place at 18% was the definitely media bias across the board group. And coming in at last place at 13% was the no media bias exists group. Performance of the platform is key. So it's pretty much intense.
Shout out to Brett.
Oh my God. Put him under
the That's Brett's idea. No, everybody is cool. They're not doing that, man. No.
Stop it. There was an intense vote, over 200 voters. Lord Jez, I hold you personally responsible for this. So I need your take on the storm created by your tweet.
See, again, this is another situation where I tweeted before I really thought about it. First of all, I didn't want to put Ryan McCaffrey in that position because he's a genuinely great guy.
Love Ryan.
And he didn't deserve all the shit he got for that. So I felt really bad. But like when I tweeted that, I was like, I wasn't thinking, oh my god, screw those journalists. I was thinking, oh my god, that social media team are stupid. And I tweeted that the social media team was stupid. Someone from IGN was tweeting me saying, you can't call them stupid. And I was like, well,
yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
And I stand by that. I think what they tweeted was stupid. Now, I'm not against jokes. I've made plenty of shots at PS4 myself, but the difference is I don't have a platform of 50 million people. And also, like, I think when a platform of that size takes that kind of shot, it gives ammunition to the most toxic elements of gaming.
Thank you.
So that's why it annoyed me. Gotcha. I think if it was the other way around, if it was PlayStation, like if they put Nintendo in that picture as well, it would have annoyed me just as much. You know, it's kind of like, you know, and it just felt like really poor timing. It was like, yeah, Microsoft's taking all this flack. You know, the people at Microsoft are real people. They've got real feelings. They see all these tweets and stuff like that. And I am close to it because, you know, I got friends at Microsoft, you know, and I know lots of people at Microsoft, and I feel close to it. And I felt like if I was pouring my life and soul into trying to make Xbox a good platform, and then the biggest platform for gaming on the planet was openly mocking what I was trying to achieve, I would feel really bad. So I felt bad on behalf of them.
I got you. Let me ask you a quick question, though, because I just want to be fair to the other side. And my question to you is, what about the people who say, look, the only reason why Microsoft is getting killed is because they're not putting out a great product, and that people always reference the last generation, and they'll say, hey, you know, the 360 was a dominant force and PS3 was getting killed back then. What do you say to those people who really, they feel that there's no bias at all when those type of comments come out?
Now, I don't believe well, the thing is, everyone's got their biases, you know. I mean, to eliminate bias, you would have to be a robot.
So we are saying that bias exists for the
bias exists. It has to.
Yeah,
but it does.
I'm not
saying
saying
the platform thing. Like, if you're an individual, you're gonna have bias, right? But the problem is when you do something that makes it seem like the platform is reflecting that bias. That's the problem, because that's not just your platform.
Sometimes bias can be a good thing, I think, because it can, like, say for example, if you are biased against Xbox, it might lead you to getting feedback that a fanboy who's biased in favor of Xbox wouldn't necessarily arrive at. And as Microsoft wants feedback wherever it can get it, as long as it's respectful and obviously like that.
I was
just saying, like, if a PlayStation fan says to Microsoft, I don't like what you're doing, this is why I'm not buying your system, they're biased in favor of PlayStation, but still, that's useful information where Microsoft can inform their decisions going forward about maybe trying to bring them on board, you know. But when you're a journalist, you're gonna have biases as well. You know,
right, absolutely. It's natural.
Yeah, I only write about Xbox, so you could say I'm biased in favor of Xbox, right? What's important as a journalist is to try and see it from a level, try and see it from different perspectives, try and see it with a level-headed view. It's no good if you're just sitting there saying to Microsoft, you're the best, everything you do is amazing all the time, because no one will believe your shit.
Right, exactly.
you're just saying nice things all the time, and also it's not useful. It's honestly not useful to Microsoft. If you're just giving them wins when they're losing, then it's not helping them to grow and get better. So I approach it. I mean, I don't know what all journalists do it, but I try and approach it from the position of constructive criticism is the best way forward. So if that's me using my bias in a constructive way, and that's the way I try and do it. And my boss, Daniel Rubino, he says his ethos is that we're brand champions at Windows Central. We try and inform the good stuff, but also highlight the bad stuff and try and give a voice to criticism, give a platform to valid criticisms of Xbox, Microsoft and Xbox, and that's what I try and do. And I think that's what Ryan McCaffrey tries to do, and the IGN editorial team tries to do. That's what I think.
I agree. The issue with that tweet is, well, look at something like when Ryan McCaffrey got a lot of flack for on his personal Twitter, just posting that Xbox fans just want something on God of War caliber. He got a lot of, and he didn't say even nothing wrong. He was just like, we would like on this side just to get that kind of a caliber of a game. There was nothing wrong with that, but he apologized for that. The problem with that particular tweet with the images is that wasn't on, whoever is the equivalent in, let's say the person who tweeted it, that wasn't on his personal Twitter. That was on IGN's Twitter.
Right, but let's be clear. It was the social media team, not like the editorial team, right? But it was the platform of IGN.
It's still the platform's Twitter. Right. It has all their followers. That's like me going on ILP's Twitter and posting something. No one knows that it's me. No one knows that it's Cognito. They see that as Iron Lord's podcast. They don't see that as an individual person.
Good point. Good point. No, valid stuff, man. And like I said, it was really intense. Shout out to everybody in the poll who contributed. It's very intense argument, but we definitely respect it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I thought what you did, it generated a good conversation. So I wanted to include that. So we're gonna get into these topics. Got a lot to get into. So we're gonna talk about Halo. We're going to talk about the future and the importance of the franchise. Obviously, Halo is very near and dear to the Lords. We talked about it at the Game Struck 4. Most of us had it in our Game Struck 4 last week. And I also want to talk about Phil Spencer's tweet and the the exact role of Halo as far as the future. We're hearing the rumors of it going to PC. Also, that whole I can't pronounce it, El Dorado mod that caused a little bit of a controversy. So let's start with Lord Jez again. As far as the future of Halo, where do you see it going? Also, the controversy in reference to Halo apparently going to PC. What are your feelings on this, Lord Jez?
Now, I know people are really passionate about this topic because people see Halo as being part of the Xbox brand, the identity, and there's a lot of sentiment about Halo and what it means to be an Xbox gamer is often wrapped up in Halo. Full disclaimer: I'm not a big Halo fan. Sorry.
How dare you, Lord?
There's not enough blood in the game. I grew up on Unreal Tournament and Doom. There's not enough gore in Halo. Why can't I rip the Promethean's arms off? I'm a cyborg super soldier. Why can't I do these things?
Thinking about that, bringing that up, Jez. Do you think if they made a straight up crazy Halo, like the next Halo was, they weren't playing around? It's like, look, this is not for little kids. And it just showed like, it had like executions of ripping off like Elite's hands and stuff. Do you think that would improve the overall brand and make more people interested?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the common sense is that 18 mature rating is bad because it means less people buy your game because little kids can't buy your game. So that's often the case. But I think just throwing off topic slightly, but the flood served that purpose, right? Because you could smash the flood a bit and it felt more impactful than fighting Prometheans, who just sort of explode in this flame flash. Seriously, I hate it. I hope they just remove it. But this whole thing about Halo on PC, I think people just need to accept that it's going to happen.
Right. Now I want to shout out the chat real quick. After interrupt you, I want to shout out the chat. We got Cal from the tech leader in Last Sun Network, and we have the original NLG. People are saying that, hey, Halo's been on PC already with 1 and 2, so this shouldn't be anything new. So continue, Lord Jez, in reference to your feelings on that, the whole PC bit specifically of it probably coming.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, Halo has been on PC before, there's a vocal minority, and it honestly is a minority. When you look at the wider Xbox Live stats, there are 59 million Xbox Live users, however way you want to take that. There are tens of millions of Xbox Live users. I'd say only maybe like 10% or less of those are on Twitter. Maybe less than 5% on Twitter. Less than 5% know about this El Dorito mod. Most Xbox gamers are out there playing games. They don't care about any stuff. That's just a fact. And like, if that offends anyone, those are the facts. Sorry.
I hear you. That's valid. Continue.
So when Microsoft is looking at this issue, they've seen a passionate community of modders bring Halo back to PC. They've seen a passionate amount of people play that mod and love it, streaming that mod. That's free money.
Yes.
They would be ignoring. It's a dumb business decision to not bring it to PC. There is no downside to bringing it to PC. Like, the only downside is a few fanboys' emotion.
So what
isn't a big deal.
So what you're saying, Lord Jez, is that like, because the counter argument to this is that people say, hey, you know, you're devaluing the console. There's no reason for me to buy an Xbox now. I'll just get a PC. You know, what do you say to that contingent?
Microsoft would say, we don't care. It's part of the ecosystem. The Xbox is x86. It is virtually a PC. It runs on Windows. It's, you know, it's x86 architecture. The Master Chief Collection is being rebuilt for UWP. Halo 5 is already UWP. That code presumably would run across onto PC fairly quickly with a few tweaks. We've already got Halo 5 Forge on PC,
right?
Which shows it can run. There's no such thing as a distinction between Xbox and PC. Windows 10 is just the one ecosystem. So, like,
continue. I'm sorry.
Microsoft doesn't make any money selling consoles. They make money selling games.
Repeat that again.
They don't make any money selling consoles. They would love it if you know, they could get people subscribing to Xbox Live on PC, but that's never going to happen because that's just, PC has always been an open platform. So Microsoft will be more than happy for people to get a PC and buy Halo on PC. You know, that's where Microsoft wants to be, and that's where they're going to be.
No, I totally hear the UWP aspect. In your opinion, because I kind of think that it's a lot of this is prep for actually the Master Chief Collection to come on PC probably first, right? Based on, like I said, the UWP aspect, and based on the fact that, I mean, no, full disclosure, I'm in the, you know, the program for them to get that thing going. So that's my guess. Do you think that this announcement kind of sets that up for a Master Chief Collection to kind of come out again and be redone?
They are heavily hinting at it, aren't they? I mean, yes. Phil quoted that specific line which said, "We look forward to the future of classic Halo on PC."
Yes.
That is basically them saying, calm down. We're not ready to announce it just yet, but yes, probably Master Chief Collection coming to PC. And it's going to mean so much free cash for Xbox. And like, if you're an Xbox fan, you should be celebrating that, because it means the business is healthier. It means Microsoft can reinvest that money into the console, bring you those games like God of War that everyone's really upset about. They can only do that if they get money. And Master Chief Collection on PC is a huge wad of free cash. So I don't know why anyone would be against that.
No, hey, let's get a... No, I hear where you're coming from. I definitely hear where you're coming from. I just want to get a Lord King and Lord Sol's feeling on this whole, you know, controversy. The streets, the Twitter streets are upset, you know, when Phil made the tweet. So Lord King, let's get you up first. What do you feel about the whole Halo to PC thing?
Well, my thing is, if you're holding off, and I'm not going to buy an Xbox One because it's, you know, they're devaluing the system, so who cares? Don't buy it. Go buy a PC. Go spend that $2,000 to play Halo, and I'll play Halo with the $49.50 and the, what is it, $500 for the X system. I'll do that. You let me know how your experience is greater than mine, or how it devalued me, and your value is so crazy. I don't care, to be honest with you. I don't care. Like he said, Microsoft is getting paid for selling games. Sell all the games you can. Sell all the games through all the avenues that you have. The avenue is Windows Store on the PC. I would want them to buy Steam so they can take over Steam and have that on PC.
Y'all trolling. Y'all sound like y'all
Like-
trying to upset the PC fanboys.
No,
Like,
I don't care about the PC fanboys. PC fanboys are really, this is going to be a controversial statement.
go for
A
it.
lot of them are pirates. All right, a lot of them want free stuff anyway because you feel entitled because you paid $2,000, so you think you should get everything for free. So you pirating and modding and doing all this stuff. So no, I don't really care about your opinion because half of the stuff you got is free anyway. I hope they shut you down.
Continue, Lord King. The chat is in agreement with you, by the way.
Thank you, chat, for riding with the king. And Stormbreaker says, "The hell with what they say."
Lord Saul, what do you feel about this whole Halo to PC and the future of Halo?
Microsoft doesn't care where you get their game, so long as you get their game. Like, they don't care. They're happy to sell it to you on Xbox, but it's like Lord just says, like, it's free money to bring it to PC. You got to remember, I bought Halo 1 and 2 on PC as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The community around that was nothing compared to what you saw on consoles. The support for those games at that time, that's 2003. I was such a huge back then. Halo was everything, right? So I wanted to consume Halo wherever it came out.
Absolutely.
And the game was prettier.
Mm-hmm.
It ran. It didn't run as good though. Like, I had a fairly powerful PC, and there was just a lot of jankiness with that game.
Mm-hmm.
That
So-
the overall experience was just better on consoles.
Let me ask you this question because I want to shout out Mike M in the chat. He's against it because he's saying he thinks crossplay sucks, and he thinks it's going to introduce PC hackers who run cheats. So, do you think, LordSov, do you think Microsoft should control that? Either have like a toggle in, toggle on, kind of like what they had with Gears, or what do you feel about that aspect of crossplay that maybe some of the console guys are worried that the PC guys would have a distinct advantage?
I mean, that's always a possibility. Obviously, right? You're gonna have to look into, like, keyboard and mouse support across the board, stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And separate servers maybe for PC and console gaming. That's the sort of stuff. But again, this is stuff that's gonna be
Mhm.
important down the line for a lot of games. Like, you talk about Fortnite and all that stuff, and PUBG with all this cross-platform stuff. This is stuff that on a base level, all of these companies are looking into and how to maintain and how to manage. So this is not. It's going to be an issue, but it's an issue that they're definitely addressing, right? So this is not something that they're blind to. It's going to be addressed, but the fact of the matter is that money supersedes everything. It is a good business decision for the life of Halo, for the strength, for that. You got to remember too, like, okay, part of the reason Halo has been on a downward trend, and I'm hoping 6 changes that, is that the multiplayer, especially for 5, which is amazing, has been isolated to the Xbox. And you don't have that sort of community support. If you had that game on PC as well, right, with that same type of support, same thing for Master Chief Collection. Let's forget about Halo 5, right? Master Chief Collection was the one that was supposed to put everybody in their feels. Like, oh my God, they're giving me all my old games, the entire Halo legacy, with the multiplayer that I loved. And the PC players don't get to engage in that at all. It just doesn't make sense. And I understand, like, on a fundamental level, the multiplayer stuff has been kind of broken, and they're working on that. They're fixing that. Now's the perfect time to give it to everybody. Like, these PC players never played Halo 3 on PC, never played Halo 4, no ODST, no Reach, no nothing. Like,
Open it up.
Open it up.
And there's another angle to this. This is a perfect way to start getting PC gamers subscribing to Game Pass and getting used to that.
That's all.
Like you said,
So,
like Jez said, they're not going to pay for Xbox Live. So how do you get them to pay for a service you give them?
Exactly.
Now here's the thing, Lord Jez.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. What do you do if you want to get the whole business model of the Xbox platform is on-ramping to subscription service.
Right.
They sell you the console, it's razor thin margins, and then they upsell you services and software. Software and services have much better margins, and that's how they make money. And that's why Xbox has better margins than PlayStation, because Xbox is better at monetizing its platform, and it has lower operating costs because they're industry leaders of cloud. You know, so again, I don't want to upset anyone. Them's just the facts.
Sovereign love when you just said that. By the way, when you said
those
industry
likes,
level
guys.
cloud, you just made Sovereign's face explode.
I got 28 likes. I got 53
Yes,
people
please,
watching.
Lord.
If
Great
you're
content
driving,
out here. We got Lord Jez in the building. Hit that like button, please.
If you're driving, I want you to pull over and hit the like button.
Be safe and hit the like button.
Yeah, pull over. Don't hit the
Don't
while
like
you're
and drive.
driving.
Don't like and drive.
Because I'm not paying your ticket. All right, so I want you to pull over, put your blinkers on, look in both ways, and then hit the like button. Then take the blinkers off and back on the road.
Real quick question, Lord Jez, because you got my mind racing when you make that Master Chief Game Pass comment. Do you think Master Chief Collection will launch into the Game Pass service when it does come back?
I mean, I don't want to, I
don't know. That sounds like an exclusive.
He knows something. He knows something.
Sounds like an ILP podcast exclusive. Lord Jez is about to break it here. The floor is yours.
I don't know anything about what they're planning to do with it. But if I was Microsoft,
yes,
I would release Halo 1 one month, Halo 2 another month, Halo 3 the next month, Halo 4 the next month. Keep that subscription rolling.
Oh, so you think they piecemeal it? You think they piecemeal it?
What you hearing him is his troll at heart. That's the troll at heart in him.
Yeah.
All right. That's the troll at heart. So
Microsoft isn't as evil as me, but that's how I do.
Don't listen to him, Microsoft. Throw it all out there in the wild. Make them have to click that button and say, "Yeah, I need Game Pass." Because
that would be interesting. Okay. But I think it would be interesting that if they bring Master Chief Collection out piece by piece.
Well, no, that's what I do, but I don't think they're gonna do it.
Don't listen to him. Do not listen to him at all. That's horrible. That starts a whole different war. Like then you're just giving them ammunition. You really want that page to light up. That's what you want. He wants to light up.
I was talking to someone at Xbox earlier about fishing in Sea of Thieves. Now I was saying to them, you know what? You could add fishing as a Game Pass subscriber only feature. So instead of pay to win, it's subscribe to win.
Monetization.
They replied to me, "You are evil." So,
let's get Lord Addict in on this because finish George. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Finish it, then I'll get Lord Addict in.
Oh no, I was just saying this is the whole name of the game for Microsoft is on-ramping to subscription services. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony came out with something similar to Game Pass soon. EA are doing it on PC with Origin Access.
Yes.
EA Access has been a massive success on Xbox. So Ubisoft are going to get in on this eventually too. There's already like 50 different Android subscription services for games on Android. We actually own one ourselves at Mobile Nation.
Nice.
Stash. Quick
Nice,
plug.
man.
But
low plug, go for it.
Yeah, but I haven't used it myself. But I just know that we own. But this is what everyone's doing. This is what subscription services for games, and this is the only way they can get PC is to make them subscribe. But this is slightly off topic as well. And just to finish off this segment,
go for it.
I'm not talking way too much, but for people who are upset about Microsoft's first party. And their ability to deliver games and stuff like that. You have to imagine that in a world where Game Pass is Microsoft's new bread and butter, you subscribe to Game Pass and Xbox Live. They need content to drive people to subscribe, like Netflix has original programming.
Absolutely.
In a perfect world, Microsoft would have something for every single month of the year to keep those subscriptions rolling. That's where Microsoft, I believe, wants to get to. It's going to take time to get there. But I think they will get there.
Absolutely.
Master Chief is going to be the start of the piece.
I think so. I want to get Lord Addict on this because I know the Halo thing's a little controversial. He was getting some flack back in the day. So I'm curious, how's your feeling once this news kind of broke, Lord Addict? Where's your head at as far as this whole thing? Lord Sleep? Lord Sleep has returned? Well, we'll get him back later.
He said, and Stormbreaker jumps in, and he's going to take his pension. I feel that, Game Pass should have all the games coming straight to them. Look, Addict answer. As long as it's Dark Souls.
We'll get Lord Sleep. Lord Sleep will return. Don't worry, he probably stepped away for a second. But no, I do agree with Lord Jez in reference
Lord
to.
Sleep will return. No,
I do think I agree with Lord Jez in reference. I think this is a good setup.
Like the end credits of a Marvel
Yes,
movie.
that was the best part right there. You will see Lord Sleep in the next movie. See him next week.
No, but on jokes aside, I do think that long term, I mean, this is a good thing. I will say this though, if coming to PC and everything, I have to say this, Lord Jez. I know it's going to be a little controversial, going to upset some. They've got to fix the Microsoft Store though. Like that's my only thing. Like if they really want to make this thing viable, man, because I think right now and again, I don't want to disrespect anybody, the teams that's working on it. I don't know but it's just not in a good state. What do you feel about that, Lord, just before we move on, as far as, if it comes and when it comes?
I completely agree. I've written multiple articles about how terrible the Windows Store is, and I want to believe that it was due to structural problems at Microsoft. Previously, Phil's boss was Terry Myerson, leader of the Windows and Devices group. That group at Microsoft has now been split up. Okay. So now Panos Panay, who created Surface, he runs his own devices division now. There's a cloud division, and there's a gaming division, all at the leadership table. So there's no Terry Myerson telling them what to do now. And I heard that the Windows Store for gaming was run by the Windows team, not the Xbox team. And that was actually a point of contention. That's what I heard. So now with Terry Myerson out of the picture, and with Windows as an entity divided up into segments at Microsoft, because Windows used to be at the top.
That's right.
It's not.
Absolutely.
It's services that are at the top: gaming, cloud, and Surface is sort of off to the side. But the whole point of Surface, like Xbox, is to try and get people to subscribe to OneDrive, Office, and stuff like that. So, hopefully, now that Phil is actually the true leader of gaming at Xbox,
Lord Kingsbury loves when you say stuff like that. Yeah. He's a big Phil fan.
It's a big hope, it's a big if. But I know the Xbox isn't happy with the way the store is, and I want to believe that they'll fix it. But again, like everything, it's going to take time.
Absolutely.
Windows has its own roadmap.
Got this.
I believe in Phil.
Hey, oh man, I really like you.
Yes, I really like just BFFs right now. You just made BFFs with Lord King.
I really like you right now. I really like you.
He considers Lord Phil Xbox only begotten son.
Right. I'm really glad that you're saying you like me when you hold that big hammer.
You saw millionaires pop up, right? Yeah, he's in the back. The fact that the words that he used, it wasn't, and it's very hard to get that across to people. But these are the words that people use when it comes to Phil. I believe. It's not what he's done. He's proven, his track record is proven. He's elevated certain aspects of it. He's changed the mentality when it came to the narration of the story that was being written. As he gains more control, he's not becoming a tyrant with the power. Actually, he's reached across the party lines. He's congratulated them when they make wins. It's about gaming with him, and that comes across as a genuine. This guy is real genuine. If you meet him in person, he's like really about it.
The thing about Phil and Microsoft is, like, they're not in a console war. They're not in the console business. They are a company that likes to build platforms, and it's part of Microsoft's mission statement. And Satya Nadella said it in an interview recently. You don't join Microsoft to do awesome things. You join Microsoft to help other people do awesome things. And the way Phil approaches Xbox, at least this is what the impression I get as part of the wider Microsoft ethos, is that they want to create a platform that all developers love to make games for. So when Phil's reaching across party lines and stuff like that, and trying to win good favor and stuff like that, he's trying to build a platform that can be biggest platform and also provide the biggest legacy platform. That's one of the reasons they're going diving deep into backwards compatibility, because they can say to devs, you know, bring your old games with to our platform too. You know, we are the platform, and the next and AAA devs they're not thinking about, they're not just, well, of course they're thinking about gamers today, but they're not just thinking about today's millions of gamers. They're thinking about the millions and millions of future gamers too. And that's the dilemma Xbox is really looking at, is like, because when Amazon gets involved in this whole console war thing, when Amazon gets involved in gaming and cloud gaming really takes off, this whole console war thing is going to seem like ridiculously petty. Because huge disruption is coming to this industry.
Really?
Amazon,
huge.
That's about this Amazon. Well, think of it like this, you know, when internet speeds got fast enough, Netflix came along and disrupted the whole industry with a service for streaming movies. Internet speeds aren't good enough for streaming games right now, but they will be one day. And that's why Microsoft is putting data centers in every damn country in the world, whereas Sony is spending their money making games for today's gamers, which is awesome. But the thing is, Microsoft is looking to the future more and more, and a lot of people don't like that because they want here and now. But
because a lot of it is impatience. A lot of it is, let's be honest, you know, because of, you know, I want to defend those guys for a little bit, you know, because of Microsoft's lack of first party this generation, and the fact that, you know, let's be honest, Sony has these tremendous experience in games like God of War. You know, it's only right that Xbox fans will look at their platform and say, hey, why can't we get, you know, these titles? But to your point, Lord Jez, which I do agree with you, is that what you're painting this picture is that they're setting up for the long game, right? They're setting up for data centers and things of that nature. So continue on with what you were saying.
I think like you can argue that if Xbox had less, well, if Microsoft in general had like less disruptive organizational stuff, like they've restructured across the whole company, Terry Myerson gone out and stuff like that. If you could argue that the mismanagement of Microsoft as an organization contributed to this lack of first-party games right now, in a perfect world, we'd have Microsoft preparing for the future, great, but we'd also have those first-party games now.
Exactly.
That's what we'd have in a perfect world, but for whatever reason, that hasn't happened.
Don Mattrick. Excuse me.
Exactly.
I'm sick. I'm sorry.
I have heard some horror stories about Don Mattrick, man. I bet
you have.
Oh, can we hear stories about the Don? Wait, I would love to hear one. Can I get one?
Well, I was told by someone that Don Mattrick didn't believe in indie games, for example.
Wow.
He didn't want to bother with having an indie platform and stuff like that because he felt like it was it would devalue store or whatever. I can't remember the specific, but just stuff like that. You know, the guy he didn't get it. He didn't get gamers. He was a pure businessman. Whereas Phil's a little bit of both. You know, businessman
of course
and
he didn't get gamers when he say stupid stuff like, "Oh, we got a system for you. It's called a
get the 360." Oh my God!
What don't get you.
Oh, one of the worst statements you could probably say. The horror of 2013. Woo! I mean, so you had that in conjunction. You had the Don's vision in conjunction with Terry Myerson, who, let's be honest, at that time, you know, Xbox didn't have a seat really at the table. Like they didn't really believe in it, you know. And this kind of transitions actually to my next topic, which is, you know, the financials and what's going on now, because obviously we do know, you know, that the revenue kind of came out, and, you know, Microsoft wasn't as doom and gloom as everybody thought the Xbox division was. It brought in about, you know, shout out to Lord Rand. He had a great video on this, by the way. Like they brought in 2.25 billion in the quarter. You know, it was up 18%. You know what I mean? So and surprisingly, first of all, we got to give credit to Satya, right, for putting Phil in that position. You know, and as far as seeing like the game services and things like that, you know, kind of really thrive, when technically, in gamers' eyes, 2017 may not have been the greatest game year, you know, first party game year for Xbox One, but as far as profit for the division, it showed that, wow, they're really making money. So I guess the question I want to bring to the roundtable and back to the Lords and Jez is that, you know, now that we're hearing these numbers, you know, we're hearing this, you know, Xbox is being profitable. It's not the doom and gloom thing that the fanboys have kind of put out there.
Thank you so much.
What do you feel? I know, Lord King, you've been fighting that fight for a long time.
No. I'm looking at the chat and I'm looking at the donation. And I like to say thank you so much. We do appreciate everything.
Absolutely. Much appreciated, Lord Spoonman. So now that we've got this information, Lord Jez, like, does this go against the whole notion, the rhetoric, the narrative that it's kind of doom and gloom for Microsoft? And also, how does this translate for investment for the future for those titles that the Xbox One base wants, those first party titles?
It's always hard to predict the future, but basically, Microsoft is in a really, really good position to build for the future. And they are looking at the disruption I mentioned. Like, Google hired Phil Harrison.
Yep.
You got Tencent buying up everyone in China. And then you got Amazon, who have a sizable cloud, the only cloud platform that competes with Microsoft. Amazon could easily just, say, oh, by the way, now on Twitch Prime, you also get all these games.
Yep.
Boom. That'd be disruptive like hell, and especially if they stream to your phones. Imagine that. It'd be massive disruption.
Absolutely.
Sony isn't prepared for that, and if I was a PlayStation gamer, I would be concerned.
Horrified. Be horrified.
Yeah, I would be. But at the same time, games are really important, and they are even more important in a world where you have a subscription service, because you need that content. You need those Netflix originals.
Absolutely.
You need
We're
those
gonna
Prime
have you do
specials.
the beginning of like the Game Pass in the world with Game Pass.
You mean with the voice, the little narrative voice?
Yeah. He's every time he says that, he makes me think about that guy, and I'm like, oh, I miss his trailers. His trailers was so fantastic.
Continue.
But I see, I knew Game Pass was such a great value. Even before they said that the first party games would be, come out, launch exclusively through Game Pass and stuff like that. I knew it was a great value when they told you it's 100 games for $10. And I'm like, if I'm a parent, right, and I'm a parent, and I buy a system for my kid, and I say, well, he can get 2 games a year, or I can buy this Game Pass thing that will supplement, the $120 less is,
I want to say something real quick before D says anything. I was not asleep.
He woke up.
Yeah, with Lord Sleep returns.
No, I was not asleep. I had family issues I had to tend to.
Bro. I got
so before I even say anything, D, no, I was not asleep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Listen, and then he goes back to sleep. Listen, and then he goes back to sleep.
No, dude, Lord, it's okay, man. Take care of what you got to take care of. We'll be here. Just let us know when you come back.
Don't worry. Wake up. So we here. Listen, man. Game Pass is like a huge value. So that 2.5 billion, it didn't surprise me. Now, I mean, really, the billion part did.
No, billion.
I'm not gonna front. The billion part did, because I looked over, like, he said, "What? What was the number? Did he just say billions? Did he say the billions?
It's a billion with a B.
Yeah, like, $1 billion.
Yeah, like, ooh. So the fact that that's happening contradicts a lot of, like he just said, the fanboy stuff. Like, they're not in a fanboy console war, and Lord Sovereign has been predicting this. Sasha Damas has been controlling this whole thing from the background, like with his little, I don't know if he has a little Ouija board or he has a little spiritual globe or something. But this man, like, has consistently been predicting week by week.
Yeah.
Why don't you just get into the stock market, bro?
With the cloud services. Yeah, he
He's been on it, and Microsoft has been pushing in that area, and it's going to bear fruit because it's bearing fruit now. Financially, they're in a position that when it does launch, when games do launch and the services do take off to more, when it starts to release parity that everybody who has an Xbox has a Game Pass, that's when you're going to see an explosion. That's when it actually happens, because you probably have probably 10 to 15% of the people who have an Xbox have Game Pass now. So when it gets a little bit more, you're gonna see the explosion then, and then you're gonna see all those first party games because the revenue is there to fund it.
Yeah.
No doubt,
There's,
no doubt.
There's all sorts of things I could do with Game Pass, you know. I mean, especially like, you know, soon we're gonna have 5G mobile data, and when you've got 5G all over the globe, I mean, 4G is still not finished rolling out. But this stuff is going to take years. But Microsoft is in a position to capitalize this in a way that some other companies aren't. You know, and that's why, like, you get Wall Street analysts. They talk about which company is going to be the first to $1 trillion value, and they're saying Microsoft now. No one would have ever said Microsoft 5 years ago.
Right.
But they've done so well in cloud and competing with Amazon in that space and corporate services and stuff like that. It could very well be Microsoft, not Amazon or Apple, to $1 trillion first. Not even Apple has a cloud.
You don't have to win first place in every area for a competition. You just gotta compete well enough in every direction for that.
Yeah, exactly. So like Microsoft Xbox is in a good position to play the long game. But that might suck if you're a fan now and you want those first party games.
But I got good games now, though. They acting like I really don't like the narrative. Like there's nothing there. That's not even remotely close to true.
I want to get Sarvin next. We got to get to Sostradamus in next because he predicted all this. But what's kind of interesting when the financials came out is how much third party played a factor into that, because a lot of people give criticism to Microsoft in reference to, you guys don't have a lot of good original first party content. When you look at games like Fortnite and all these things, like that's kind of like the strength. It caused so much surge and spending on both the consoles, and to see those type of things kind of contribute to the financial numbers and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty interesting, and being that Xbox One X, let's be honest, it's kind of the best place to play third party titles. So I think that kind of helps and goes hand in hand. So I want to get the Sostradamus in on this, because he's predicted the future. He's been telling us all of this and we weren't listening. So Lord Saw, how do you feel about all this information coming out with the Xbox financials and so on?
It goes back to something that Matt Piscatella said.
Look at the calm voice. Look at the arrogance.
That's really
how smooth he came in, y'all.
It's engagement. And Microsoft only cares about you engaging with their ecosystem. They don't give a damn how you do it. They just want you there some way, shape, or form. And they're continuing to create platforms and ways for you to engage with them on in terms of the platform, different platforms, in terms of price point, which is big for a lot of people. Like when you create multiple price points for the same product, and you tell people, okay, you decide how you want to do this. That's attractive to people. That's attractive to people when they have a choice as to how they can consume a product, right? A lot of these numbers, obviously, when you talk about the service engagement, a lot of that is due to people being excited over Sea of Thieves. You're going to see people who didn't have Game Pass before got Game Pass for at the very least a month, if not for more, right? So you could only see this stuff improving now with State of Decay coming out. Towards the middle and end of May.
It is awesome.
It's gonna be ridiculous, and this is what they want to see. So yeah, the fact that the Game Pass stuff and the services stuff is only gonna continue to improve just because you got more eyes on these products now. The willingness for people to spend $10 and see what it's all about is there. So and once you spend the 10, if you have one game on that service that you say, you know what, I'm willing to keep paying that 10 to stay here, and then it just exposes you to everything else is there, you're going to find something else you want to play. It's a matter of just continue to create ways for people to see different things on your platform and continue wanting to be engaged with it. And they're at a point now, like Jez says, where they're in a position to continue to expand upon that in a way that Sony isn't. And Sony, again, maybe they're not showing their hand, but it feels almost irresponsible the way they're approaching it. I understand that you're speaking to those guys who love the single player, like narrative based, action based experiences. I love those experiences, but I like when you're not talking about the other stuff that's obvious that's going to be huge. It's a little scary for the future of PlayStation as a living platform, right? Not as a singular platform that just 4, 5, 6, and the same goes for Nintendo. Nintendo, with with the portability of the system, seems like they have an idea that, you know what, I want you here all the time, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to have you here all the time. We don't know, how that translates moving forward. We're going to find out more about their online stuff soon and whatnot.
It's going to be on the Microsoft Cloud.
Yeah, you know what? That'd be the smartest thing to do, right? It would be the absolute smartest thing to do. So I just think it shows that they know what they're doing. They're not going to please everybody off the jump. They're going to piss some people off. But it's the growing pains to doing something like that.
It goes back to fundamentals of philosophies in each company. The fundamentals for philosophies in each company allows you to understand where their priorities lie. Their priorities lies in multiple engagements at one time. If we can get
engagement is key.
Right.
Matt Piscatella, Lord Piscatella, he said that exact word when we talked about Games Pass launching, and everybody was concerned, isn't Microsoft going to lose money? They're giving away their first parties. And the key word he said is what you just said, Lord King, was engagement. Continue.
Engagement. Like you look at State of Decay 2 is coming, right? And it has a single player component. You can play it by yourself, right? But the whole thought of it is to be played with your squad. Your team of 4. So now you have 4 people engaging in this online game at one time, because you look for your squad. We actually look to fill up a team in PUBG before we go out. Yeah, we could play by itself, but we will like, to have our squad. And then the chat factor that we're all engaged. Sometimes we have multiple teams in chat. This is all engagement. This is all people interacting with each other on one platform. So if you have 12 people inside the chat, remember, they open up the chat for more people to be engaged in the chat, right? Even if you're driving in your car, like, let's shout out to J-Bone, Bone Slave. He's in his car working while on chat with us. He's engaging.
Right. Oh, yeah, with the Xbox app. Yeah, that's right. With the party chat system. Correct.
So the philosophies of each company is showing true now. Like, Sony does such a great job with the single player. Come here, let me engage, let me talk to you. Like, they want to whisper to you, let me talk to you, let me holler at you for a second. And Microsoft is more of they're speaking to the crowd. Sometimes they may miss a couple of people. They will miss that one-on-one where Sony will get that one-on-one. Microsoft is trying to engage everybody at one time. Now, it's great if you have both platforms and it works out for you. While Nintendo, like Lord Sovereign says, is trying to keep that system on you and you playing with it wherever. You're in the bathroom, you're playing. You're waiting in line at the bank, you're playing. So engagement is key with all the companies, but how they look at it is that's the fundamental DNA of each company, and it's beautiful to see.
Absolutely, and I gotta agree with you because you have a hammer and you're saying it, so it makes sense. But Lord Jez, I just want to bring this one last point before we move on to you in reference to that. Now, we all agree engagement. We all agree the long-term plan for Microsoft seems like it may bear fruit. My question to you is, though, what about the here and now fan, the fan that says, yeah, that's nice, but y'all ain't got no single player game. Yeah, that's nice, but God of War is out here and there ain't no God of War on Xbox, and I'm tired of waiting, because this is what we hear, Lord Jez. Like we hear like, Microsoft, what are they doing? And the consensus is, if they don't have anything by E3, oh man, I'm getting rid of this thing, man. Like, what do you say to those people who may be losing faith, who are on the cusp?
I would honestly tell them to just buy a PlayStation. If you want what PlayStation has, buy a PlayStation, because it's impossible to just magic up a God of War. And yeah, maybe Microsoft screwed up and they should have had something ready, high quality games ready. And it would have been Scalebound, stuff like that. Hopefully, but like they screwed up. Games got cancelled. Phantom Dust got cancelled. Fable Legends got cancelled. We don't need to go through all that. Lots of games got cancelled, and they screwed up.
Exactly.
they made the wrong bets on certain second parties, and things went wrong. You could say, yeah, Microsoft screwed up. They're going to work to fix it. They're hiring top tier talent to do that, and they've had the reorganization, stuff like that. But it's going to take time. So if you want the here and now, you want the best games, best single player games here and now, your main choice is to buy a PlayStation or play one of those 500 games in your backlog. Because I when people say this to me, like on Twitter, Xbox has no games, I just block them. I'm just like, how do you have time to play all these games? It's such an asinine argument because my backlog has hundreds of games in it. Yes, they're not first party games,
right?
But who cares?
Exactly. So your backlog disagrees.
Yeah, it's like, how do you have time to play all these games? And it's just like, you say, where are these first party games? And you click on their profile and they've got like a PSN listed, but no Xbox Live. It's like Sony fanboys often seem more concerned about Xbox than Xbox fans.
Interesting. Interesting.
Honestly, just buy a PlayStation. If you want a single player game,
I've said this a couple times. I feel like at the end of the day, let's say that tomorrow, like, you have all these fans. I'm not going to go into really specifics, but you go into.
Sorry, I was just talking to my girlfriend.
People are really like, you see people like, oh, they want they want all of this. They're like, oh, I just want the brand to be better. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, at the end of the day, there are some people that claim that they want the brand to be better, but let's say that if Microsoft came out at E3 and they dropped nothing but great news, showed a bunch of people initiatives that they're doing stuff, the same people saying they want the brand to be better are going to be the same people. They're going to be low-key disappointed. Like, well, man, what am I going to talk about on Twitter for the next 6 months? Man,
I hear what you're saying,
they low-key want the brand to do bad because that's how they're building their brand.
Right, because a lot of people look at this as a competitive, space, and that's fine. I mean, that competition definitely makes it better for us as the gamer. At the end of the day, it's like the poll we had maybe 2 ILP polls ago, and it was just like, if a brand is disappointing you that much, again, it's okay to demand better. No one's saying not to, and we didn't want to, not go against that. But it comes to a point that if you keep getting consistently disappointed, and said company's not doing what you needed to do, then you go get a PlayStation, or go get the other, console.
Like I said, it's okay to mention that system, like, if you want to go out, great, go out, make a whole 2-hour podcast saying that this is disappointing, I don't like this. But when I see that it's a problem on you and not them is when you do the next week or the next day. It's like, if you have an expectation of wanting this brand to be better, but you don't give them the enough time to make this band like Figure A makes a video last week saying, I don't like the fact that there's no first party titles. Then Figure A makes the same podcast again a week later saying, I don't like that they don't make. There's literally no way you can make from point A of making last week to point B making this week of controlling anything like that. There's no way.
Shout out to Lord DeMarcus Doss. He says we're the Damage Control Podcast.
It's whatever, man.
Shout out to Lord DeMarcus, baby, coming at us.
Yeah,
and DeMarcus, all I can say is, isn't that Damage Control when we say go buy both?
That is true.
And then but here's the thing. It's like, I don't understand where these people, like, you don't give them realistic values on when they can fix this. You can't make a podcast once a week claiming that you want this brand to fix, but you can't fix stuff in a week. Like, if you made a video like 3 years ago and be like, I'm not happy with what they are, and then you make a video in enough time where I feel like they could relatively answer your concerns, that's different. But people literally keep making the same video every day. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't get how you realistically, in a realistic expectation, expect it to be fixed.
You know what happens? It's not that. It's just that it's always a reaction to what happens on the other side, right? They make a video and then...
no, it's clearly for clicks. But at the end of the day, say I'm doing this for like they literally be fooling themselves that they're doing this for a brand when they're doing it for their own concern.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Because I mean, again, if you make a video, right, and there's let's say there's nothing out on the Sony side, right? Then 2 weeks later, God of War comes out. You're gonna say it again, right? Oh damn, we don't have this. And then if Detroit comes out and it's a top tier game, right? They're gonna say it again. When Spider-Man comes out, same thing's gonna happen. Like the same argument's gonna be there. Like that. It's like you said, it's for clicks because you know there's gonna be a polarizing conversation around it. It's just gonna happen, like you know.
And the funny part is people be acting like. I will say that Microsoft's had plenty of stuff, and I will say the only thing that's really when it comes down to it, I think people want to see more of Game of the Year contenders and not just games in general.
Facts, absolutely. People want that level, that quality, that level of standard.
I will say, as of right now, there's only been a couple games that Microsoft's generated that could even be a Game of the Year contender. As much as I don't really particularly care for Sunset Overdrive, that was a Game of the Year contender. As much as
I don't know. I might not go there, but
I don't know
about that one.
When I say a Game of the Year contender, I'm saying a game that could potentially be Game of the Year depending on what came out that year.
Okay, relatively.
Like a game that has quality that could potentially be Game of the Year contender, but it's not its fault. It would compete with something like GTA 5, God of War.
No, I understand.
Like something that is quality but could be Game of the Year in some form or way. But it couldn't because of games that came out that year. It's competition.
Right. No, I understand. And all I want, we'll move on because we went on this topic a little too long. One thing I want is just for games like Sunset Overdrive, games like Rise, if they have control of the IP, which some cases they do, some cases they don't. I just would like them to, like we talked before, invest in the sequel, because some things that I like that Sony does is that they don't I don't want to say give up on the first attempt when necessarily it wasn't the most financial, because Microsoft has control of a lot of properties that deserve sequels, in my opinion. So I would like to see that, but that's just me. But anyway,
I actually just to add to your point, I actually think this is the biggest area of Microsoft's failing.
Yes,
that's literally
when
the only.
Thank you for saying
they make these games, they market them, Quantum Break. They push all this marketing. They give the game a cliffhanger ending. They make all this merchandise, all these all this narrative stuff surrounding the game. No sequel.
Thank you.
We'll probably never get a sequel.
And if you look,
it breaks my heart. And the thing is that those are the instances where Microsoft pisses me off the most, because it's like they drill into us, get invested in our IP, and then they don't do anything with it. And they've done this repeatedly.
Yes,
they've done it repeatedly.
It's almost as if the home run is not hit with the first attempt. They just fall back on it, and it's just and that's the part. Like, we know what Forza, Gears, and Halo do. We understand that, but it's just one of those things where we just hope. That sometimes, there's games that have a great foundation. Like Rise has a great foundation. Quantum Break has a great foundation. So,
I wouldn't say Quantum Break has a great foundation.
You keep going at my game, but you keep pushing up the Sunset Overdrive.
Look, man, if you want to get technical, I didn't even push that game up. Okay,
but you just, I think it's the last two.
Look, if I wanted to watch,
if I wanted to watch a game,
I'd go watch Netflix.
Start playing it or something? Did you just play it in Game Pass or something? I don't know what's going on with you and the Sunset Overdrive love.
I mean, you're gonna sit here and come at me, but you didn't even get past the first boss of God of War and completely.
Well, actually,
come at me with that.
To be honest with you, like Jez says, my backlog is incredible.
So now you just completely diverted what I just said, guys.
No, I mean, listen. At the pace that you play games and the pace that I play games, it's totally different.
Yeah, I play games. You talk.
Oh my God!
You sit there. You sit there and you play games, but do you really play games? Like, I never see the controller in your hand.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's really. I don't
know.
You.
I got receipts.
I mean, I sat there and watched you and Pat.
Did you beat?
And I was not impressed.
Did you beat?
I was not impressed.
Any of these games, I need receipts.
I was not impressed. I saw you live, and the live addict wasn't impressive.
Did you beat Bloodborne? I need receipts.
It was kind of.
Did you beat Cuphead? I need receipts.
No, I never beat Cuphead.
Oh, he got his resume out. He got his resume out.
You know the actual thing is, I never beat Cuphead, but I purchased it. I support it. I sat there. I'm not the hard game player.
Okay, so now are we talking about
nobody's you?
Play?
Listen,
10 seconds ago you're talking about play. Now you're talking about support. I feel
what
like
are you talking about? Like, do you play PUBG? I haven't seen you play PUBG. Have you got a chicken dinner?
Yes.
Where's your dinners at?
Yeah,
your plate is kind of you looking hungry here.
I'm hungry over here.
Honestly, your belly looking kind of starving right now. Like your ribs is touching.
Look, I'm trying to be tone, not fat. Okay? I'm trying to be tone, not fat.
When's the last chicken dinner? Give me a date.
Oh my God.
Look, you guys I'm trying to be tone, not
Give me the chicken dinner date.
And on that note, we'll be moving on.
Man, that was the last time. I can't tell you the last time me and King had a.
Lord Solve, we gotta move this thing on, man. We're dragging. Lord Solve, QuanticDream, what is going on?
All right, so this is gonna be a two-parter. We're gonna talk about the drama first, then the game.
Yes.
So back in January, if you guys remember, so Quantic, there were some articles that came out in French media outlets, basically accusing QuanticDream of some really toxic workplace behavior, racist stuff, sexist stuff, that David Cage like vehemently denied, right? And it sort of stayed there afterwards. Like he came out and said, no, this is not true. We're going to defend ourselves, with the full might of the law. But it kind of went silent. And now, about 4 months later, it comes to pass that they have actually sued these publications, which is a first ever, like in the video game space, where a developer has turned around and sued a media publication for basically what they believe to be libelous.
Right. For the record, Lord Jez did not write the article. That's a joke.
Yeah, no. I don't think Lord Jez works for Le Monde.
Good.
So the funny and interesting thing about this is, my perspective on it is this: the fact that they're suing a publication for basically for opinions, but opinions based on accounts from people who've worked there, is something. It's kind of nuts because this sort of stuff comes down to he said, she said, right? Right. When the publications are saying, yeah, we're being put through all this litigation, but we're sticking by our guns, meaning our sources are correct. We did everything we needed to do from the literary side to make sure we're getting both sides of the story. And 3 different publications published this stuff. So it's not like nobody looked at this stuff and said, no, we shouldn't be doing this. Like there's some, when we're approaching this from the wrong angle, right. We have to make sure that everybody's well represented here so that it doesn't come back to bite us in the rear. And the fact that nobody said that, it just feels like, okay, what is David Cage trying to prove now? Right. Is this a bullying thing? And another interesting thing about it is that he waited. He made these statements when it first happened, right? And then they went silent. And now 4 months later is when they come out and say we're suing them. That gives you, to me, if you're saying vehemently, I did not do this, none of this is going on at my company, then you immediately sue them. Right. You don't wait. It almost feels like he said, okay, let me get everybody into the boardroom, right? And we're going to talk about these things and figure out how to fix this stuff, and then come at them when we've wiped everything squeaky clean. And everybody's on board that they're not gonna, this stuff is behind us.
They're not gonna talk.
Exactly. It just feels.
Well, isn't that how you supposed to do it? Aren't you supposed to? No. Aren't you supposed to hide the bodies before you call a cop?
No, absolutely. Look for the bodies? Absolutely. But when you're doing something as unprecedented as trying to take, you're trying to take a media publication to court for libelous, i.e., you're lying. which is not the case, right? Then that's a problem. Then that's a problem, because if anything that
I thought the problem started in January.
Oh, the problem is that before then. The problem is that if anybody, let's say my theory is correct, and he spoke to some people and made sure that everybody was on board with the company message, right? And let's say somebody really wasn't on board with that, and something comes out, the ramifications for his company, it could be potentially devastating, right? And then the fact that they do this right before the game just went gold, right? And they posted this huge picture with everybody happy, like, yeah, the game's gold. We're one big happy family. Obviously, you don't want the game to be in a negative light as it's getting ready to come out, right? You don't want the company to be in a negative light. So I just want to know what you guys feel about this particular situation. And then we'll talk about what I feel about the demo of the game.
Right, we're going to go last. We got to get Lord Jez in because we're going long. Lord Jez, what did you know about what's going on with this whole QuanticDream thing, and what's your opinion on it?
Nope.
He's like, I'm staying away from this.
I don't know. I don't really follow like that sort of. Like, I don't follow PlayStation news.
No, and that's fine.
I don't know.
That's fine. What? Just about the, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
I played Heavy Rain, and I didn't like it. That's all I've got to add.
That's all you got to add. I just want to ask you one quick question. I know you're not familiar with everything, and I know you have to be careful here. I don't want to get you in trouble. All I want to ask is just from the standpoint of a developer suing a media outlet or media outlets. What's your feeling on that in general?
Well, I know that France has different media laws to some other countries. I don't really know the details about what it is and stuff like that. I mean, just the act of suing them is probably enough. But they're making a statement to say these things aren't true, and we're willing to fight about it in court. I don't know. I mean, if it's slander, and if it really wasn't true, then the court will decide. It could be a really bad move, because you never know. Things might come out in court that QuanticDream would be a Quantic nightmare. You know?
One thing that was mentioned that could potentially be troublesome for the outlets is that they're probably going to have to prove that the way they acquired their sources, right, and that the way that they didn't approach it from a position of bias, that they were willing, meaning that they reached out to QuanticDream for comment before any of this stuff came out. So they're going to have to prove all of that. So within that, their sources are probably going to have to come out. And therein lies the whole issue with, journalistic integrity and how you handle things like that, right? And how much of that has to come out. It's funny because just the other day I was watching the news. David Copperfield had to give up one of his tricks in court because because a guy got injured.
Didn't get injured.
He didn't voluntarily say that he wanted to be part of the trick. They chose him out of the crowd, and he fell or something like that. And he sued him for like $30 million.
He fell into a side room.
Yeah.
And he came back and was like, "Oh, I hurt my foot." And they was like, "Are you okay? Okay." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then after he went home,
dude had brain damage. Like, I don't
even have to mention the brain damage.
After he went home and talked to somebody, it was like, "What, are you crazy? You didn't sue?" Like today's thing is suing. That's neither here nor there. Let me tell you what this whole thing is, okay?
Okay.
First of all, it's a civil case, okay? It's not a criminal case. So in a civil case, you can bring up a frivolous lawsuit, and you can put that to court and
through the motions, right?
Right, and it will bounce no place. It will go absolutely no place. They won't even really defend the thing. It will get dismissed because it's frivolous. But in doing this, you're showing good faith. Your face is good. It's like a couple that you hear they're gonna get divorced, right? But they got to go to Tony's wedding because it's a family event. And when they go to Tony's wedding, the whole family is smiling and they taking pictures, right? Knowing damn well they're gonna get divorced. So it's so much problems that's in QuanticDreams, but this game has to come out. This game has to sell. And we don't need to divide people into saying, oh, are we going to purchase on the grounds of morality, or are we going to just purchase a game because it's such a great game? Shout out to the most interactive movie game ever. That was for you, Def. And yeah, Def, I'm watching you, baby. But it's like, of course, we know that they're gonna do PR and they have to clean it up a bit. And after the game comes out, and after the game does its numbers and it starts to die down, then you're gonna see the lawsuit be withdrawn. And it's whatever, because like Lord Sovereign said, it's hearsay. Hearsay is admissible in civil court, but once they start digging, I don't expect it to go any further and any more facts other than the facts that were released before. You know, people complaining, because whatever you perceive to be a slight may not be a slight on my part. Like me and Attic, little thing there. Attic can later on sue me and say for emotional distress because he doesn't get chicken dinner.
He'll sue you for emotional distress.
Are you stalking my screen? Like I'm on. How did you know I'm on a lawyer website right now?
Yeah, because you're looking to come at me because your stomach and your ribs is touching.
Look, it's not my fault. That's the American way. Two people got more money than you.
It is.
All right, we're gonna move along real quick. Yeah. I'll finish out there. I'll give it to Solve on his own topic. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the timing is interesting. Obviously, you know, I do want to shout out. I do like Detroit a lot. I mean, I like the demo. I'm in a tough spot because I don't like what's going on behind the scenes, but I like the game and I want the game and I'm gonna pick up the game. It's just one of those things that it just pains me to know that if this stuff is true, you know, and they're going through these kind of like what I call like public court of opinion things, like to try to sway influence. If that's the case, like so I was saying, that I'm a little concerned about that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. The only last point I want to make is that there were 3 media outlets, I believe, French media outlets that came out with that, but they're only suing 2. Right. So that I thought was interesting. One haven't been quote unquote served yet, I guess. I don't know.
Now the one that wasn't served though, they received some threatening letters before they actually went through with the litigation on the other 2, right? But they were expecting some kind of notice that they were being sued, but nothing as of yet.
Could the third one just be bigger than they are, so they can't sue them? Like.
It doesn't. I mean, these are all online.
Well, obviously they can sue everybody, Lord D. Right. We know that. I say, could they legitimately sue them and know they can get away with it?
Well, this is the thing. If you're going this far with it, you have to make sure your ducks in a row, right? So if this other third publication,
you need to stop with that hammer.
Look at him when with that hammer.
You fear the hammer, Attic? Are you afraid of the hammer?
Tell you so. We got it.
It's not my fault that's made out of styrofoam. Okay.
We got to keep Lord Jez to his appointment. We got to keep this moving.
It's styrofoam.
Publication had
still styrofoam.
Just had like
great sound effects,
contributing and stuff like that. Like. It's not going to be sued. They had to have a hand in actually bringing all of this information to the forefront. So that's that. So let's get into the game real quick. The demo came out last week. If you are a fan of Indigo Prophecy, if you're a fan of Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, this is straight up a David Cage game. It's just blown out to the umpteenth level. The game is beautiful. It is a gorgeous game. It is a AAA game in terms of production value. I got to play through like 3 permutations of the scenario that they gave us in the demo, right? Which is the one that we saw at E3 last year.
Exactly.
And it's just blown out a little bit more. I will say this. I don't know if it's a digital purchase for me. It might be a disc purchase that I finish.
Because once you finish, you're done. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Exactly. To me, David Cage has always been good about giving you that choose your own adventure, right? Where
those books I grew up with. Shout out to Choose Your Adventure, Own Adventure.
Those books that we all grew up with, and in each game he's expanded upon that and giving you more choices, right? But the ideal is to get to that point where, you know, the analogy of throwing a pebble in a pond and seeing how all the ripple effects affect everything around it, right? And that's where everybody wants to get, right? I talked about way back when about who's the BioShock guy, Ken Levine, wanting to do something called digital Legos, where everything you did affected everything else that happened, and that's a difficult thing to do, right? So in that respect, this isn't that yet. This is just the David Cage formula blown out more, So you're going to have more permutations and more things that happen and more small things that happen during the course of the story that affect bigger things that happen. So in that respect, I say, yeah, it definitely improves upon that formula, but it's still finite. It's still not, you know, and it's still limited. Like they give you an environment and there's certain things you can mess with in the environment and look at. You can't touch everything in the environment.
There's specific things that they want you to focus on.
Exactly.
And there's time limits and stuff with certain things as well.
Yeah. So that part of it, if you're into that sort of game and that sort of mechanic, it's just that blown out, right? It takes it to the Telltale games and it takes it to old David Cage games. Now, if you have issues with how he handles like themes and stuff like that, well, again, it's a David Cage game. He handles his themes with like the subtlety of a hammer. Like it's not.
Shout out to the chat, which is cheaper, NyQuil or Detroit. I'm dead. They're out of control.
Boring. I like these type of games. You know, Cognito likes these type of games. Some people might find it boring because
look, man,
like
NyQuil
you don't feel like you have.
Sooner or later, it might be cheaper just to buy that game than NyQuil.
Oh my God! Continue, so let's wrap this thing up, man. We got to move.
Well, yeah, man, like that. To me, it's gonna be one of those things. If you like those games already, you'll like it. If not, I don't know that it's bringing on anybody new. Maybe for the looks are hot, so you might want to jump in and try this type of game.
I thought the controversy actually made me pre-order the game. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I got a question for Lord Cognito, actually.
Yeah, what's up?
Since we're going over, are we allowed to skip the Switch topic?
No, because I want to get done with it. And it's going to be 5 seconds. I'm just literally going to say it, give your impressions, and we're out of here.
All right, let's do it.
Long enough. Okay, so real quick, in the world of Nintendo, which my Lord Addict couldn't wait to get to. New president. You know, can't pronounce his name fully, Shantaro Furukawa. But anyway,
he took over Lord Fizume's title.
No, this is on the Japan side. He's pretty much 20 years younger. He grew up in the Famicom era, you know, so I thought that was interesting. You know, expert in marketing, close.
I just want someone my age. I'm tired.
He's 46, which is impressive. Iwata was 42 when he took over.
20 years too old. 20 years too late.
Shut up, young wolf.
Wow, this guy is mad disrespectful.
Played too long in the Switch. We got to move along, man. We went way over.
Yeah, let's do it. Come on.
Fluent English, close ties to Pokemon, like I said, which I thought was key because obviously that you figure that's coming. So I thought that's interesting. New blood in the Nintendo line. But what I want to get to, which is the newest, hottest thing in the streets right now, the Nintendo Switch has been blown wide open.
Fake news.
Unfixable hack. It's been hacked. This is actually not on the software level, so it's on the hardware level. And the Tegra,
which just pretty much makes it fake news.
No, this is official. This is not fake news. This is official. I can give you links, give you guidelines.
So we talking like it is news. It's official news.
Yes.
But let's be real here. 1 out of every 100 people were able to do this. So it's fake.
No, listen, here's the deal. Anybody, first of all, this cannot be fixed through a firmware update. This is on the hardware side. When you take off the Joy-Cons of the Nintendo Switch, you know how you have those rails where the Joy-Con slide on? It's basically some type of USB thing that goes through and overpasses the BIOS and starts its own boot ROM. They cannot fix this through software. They will have to come out with new Nintendo hardware to get around it. Now, obviously, you know, we assume Nintendo is going to update the next level of Nintendo Switches with a new Tegra chip, which doesn't have that exploit. But as of right now, they cannot do anything to fix this. So I just wanted to bring this to the round table. Let's get it to Jez. Let's get it to everybody real quick. Your thoughts on Nintendo President and the Switch being hacked. Lord Jez.
Oh, okay.
Well, Switch being hacked obviously is a huge headache for Nintendo. They're going to have to release a new one. Apparently, it can be hacked with a single wire, I believe.
Yep.
And
it looks like a little blue critter that goes inside.
They already made a device.
Yes.
I went and purchased said wire. Are you ready?
Oh my God! I love podcast that's not cut down.
Well, it's this piracy is what buried the Dreamcast. You know, I mean, I remember at school, kids were trading boot discs for the Dreamcast, which had like 30 games on them. You didn't even need a cable; you just slipped the disc in, and boom, you had a hacked console. So it's a huge headache, obviously, for Nintendo, and they need to fix it as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
But that basically all the Nintendo Switches that are out in the world now are totally susceptible. And obviously, as we all know, as we discussed earlier, the margins on consoles are razor thin. You need those games to make money, and this is a huge problem for Nintendo. So
yes,
it's a shame, but I've always said the Nintendo hardware has always been shoddy. I feel and Nintendo people are the most passionate in the world because Nintendo makes some amazing games, but their hardware is always crappy. My GameCube just died randomly. The Wii was a joke. The Wii U was an even
your
bigger joke.
timeline is gonna be crazy. The Nintendo fanboys are coming.
I'm sorry. It's just
hey, Lord D.
Awful quality.
Lord King.
Yo.
I'm pretty sure Lord Cognito's favorite phrase isn't going to be used for Lord Jez anymore. So
I know, right? My man.
You no longer
My man ain't gonna come there no more.
Continue.
For all the janky hardware they produce, they have amazing ideas. Like the Switch is like. The form factor of the Switch is it's this amazing idea to have such a powerful console in such a small portable device.
Absolutely.
And it works really well. And no other manufacturers have been trying this for years, like Nokia with the N-Gage.
Jez, I'm just gonna let you know that the Nvidia Shield is the same exact thing minus the Joy-Cons. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah.
But Lord Jez is correct. The form factor of the Switch, you can't deny it though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's been done by the same people that did.
I'm saying people have been doing it for years. But the Nvidia Shield is it didn't have the software.
Yeah, that's it right there.
And Nintendo did have the software, and they saw the because people always criticize Nintendo for not doing more stuff on mobile because of how Pokemon Go blew up and stuff like that. And this is Nintendo's response because they've been massively successful with the Nintendo DS, and the Switch is sort of like the evolution of what they learned from the DS and what they learned from the Wii U, and the form factor is amazing. I just wish Microsoft had made it, and not
and I wish Microsoft would partner them to give them Xbox Live.
Wait.
Exclusive? Hold on. Stop the presses. Lord Jez knows something.
Well, Minecraft on Switch is gonna have Xbox Live.
Achievement.
And you have achievements, yes.
And you might one day even see Game Pass on Nintendo Switch.
Whoa! Lord Jez got the bomb on us.
I'm not saying that I've got evidence for that, but that's the whole idea is to get services on those platforms, and Nintendo are open to it. Nintendo have allowed Xbox Live on their platform.
So let's back this up. Listen, you're dropping bombs right now. My heart can't take it. So
I've got no evidence for this. No evidence.
I like how he walked away from it. I tried to get him. That journalistic training kicked in right quick.
He threw a smoke screen and was like, no evidence.
I got no evidence, but it's like
he just used the Infinity Gauntlet. Was like, I didn't say that.
Rewind.
So what you're saying? What you're not saying? There's a possibility that some things may be in place.
He's just saying that they're open to that concept because they let Xbox Live on there, so that
conceptually it could happen.
Conceptually, I like that.
And that's the Nintendo. What I'm saying is the Nintendo Switch is a great console, and it fills this gap where you can take a powerful console with you, which Sony failed to do with Vita, and Microsoft have never even bothered trying to do.
Right.
So it is a shame, and hopefully they can get this fixed. I mean, but it looks like they rushed the Switch out the door. I've seen the teardown of the Switch internals. And it just looks poorly made, plasticky. Dude, I buy Surface.
I love it. He saved it for the end. He saved it for the end so he could go out with a bang. Wow!
I buy Surface hardware, okay? And when I have I got Surface Book 2 right here. It is a symphony of engineering excellence. Look at the Switch. It's like this plasticky toy. Like, and it's evident the fact that you can crack it with a single wire just says to me that they rushed this thing, you know, and that's.
Now you don't blame Tegra though, because the fault is actually in the Tegra chip. That's where the exploit lies, though. It's like they have a flaw fundamentally on the chipset. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I'm concerned about if that affects the relationship with Nintendo and Tegra going forward, because they've been so profitable for these guys.
It might be on hardware part like Tegra's fault, but at the end of the day, this is like the whole Microsoft and Platinum thing. Like they did give that job to them, so like that was judgment. Maybe that was bad judgment on them. And at the end of the day, like you can't even really blame them on a hardware side, because it is their fault, and that's probably going to put some kind of fault between them. But it's hard to to add on like a hardware thing to be perfect.
I feel you're completely right. I feel bad for Nintendo, because there's no other chipset that could have used. They couldn't have used any other chipset to make that console except the.
That's right.
So,
I don't feel bad for them at all. They're winning. Nobody does this exploit. Listen, when it's real? When it's real is when a certain Lord shows me how to do it. And that's when it's real. Because let me tell you something right now. My Nintendo backlog is very minor. Okay, I have at least probably 5 games, tops, maybe 6. Let that really happen, and my backlog is going to be incredible.
Just for the record, this is
don't support piracy.
Yeah.
No, we do not support piracy.
I'm showing it for a second. Yo, just for the record.
And that's it. It's over. That's it. We're gonna have to cut that segment out. That segment has to be cut out. That segment that you just saw, if you're not watching this live right now, when you go to watch the replay, that segment will be erased.
I just have a question. You say stuff like that segment's going to be erased. Are you doing that?
No, you are.
And
I'm going to talk to you after this to get that erased. I do not need the Nintendo police at my house trying to figure out if I actually really hacked my system. So I would like that. Release. Gone. Erase. Get it out of here.
Let's move on real quick. We gotta finish, man. Solve. What's your opinion? Real quick?
Look, Nintendo has a little bit of time, because the hack is just not an easy thing to do right now yet. This thing that you just showed, like that's not even in production yet. So once it is, and once they continue to refine these hacks and make it so that it's easy for anybody to do, that's when you really have to worry.
Absolutely.
At this point, though, I mean, you're talking about like 18 million switches out there that can act. So they need to start thinking about revisions and how they got to move the timeline up for the revision that they had planned for maybe next year or whatever.
Listen, Lord Cognito wants the hack to happen really fast so he can get the Switch Pro. That's is all
I want a better version of it. I want a more powerful version of it.
This is all an intricate plot by Lord Cognito to get the Switch Pro with the Tegra 2 chip out the door as fast as possible.
All right,
I would not be surprised.
I gotta restate it. Okay, the Iron Lords podcast.
Disclaimer.
You can say whatever you want to say.
The way you guys are talking, the way you guys are talking.
On the record, they went to Nintendo with that exploit to let them know, hey, we've exploited this. We got you. No, this is on record, so we're okay. You know what I'm saying? And Nintendo, they just said they're not going to comment at this point, but it's common knowledge that they will be pumping out a revision very soon to the Tegra. And like Lord Sovereign said, this maybe long-term speeds up, that possible version 2, with a better Tegra chip.
I didn't think this topic was going to be as good as it is.
Yeah, look at you. I didn't want to do this topic, and look how much fun you're having.
Yo, wait. You told me that the robbers
Yes.
came up to Nintendo, knocked on the door with the gun and said, listen, we got the goods on you. And if you don't play ball with us, we're going to actually put this out to the crowd.
Yes.
And Nintendo was like, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
The name of the company is Pumpkin State. They notified NVIDIA and Nintendo and others who plan to use the Tegra.
Yo, you've done serious research on this, huh?
They notified them, right? And the problem was that they were like, this is what it is, work on it, right? And once they saw other hacking groups came up with the same exploit, they said, no, we got to put it out there because they
want that money now first. But here's the funny part, y'all. The people who actually are using the exploit right now, Lord Jeff, they aren't using it to pirate games because Nintendo's so terrible that they don't have an internal save situation. They're using the hack to save their data on SD card, which is something Nintendo should already be offering. So they're using it for that purpose, which I find is hilarious. So they don't lose anything. Because right now, if your Switch breaks, you lose your data. This has been one of the major complaints against the Switch. You know what I mean? So I thought that was hilarious. But yes, Lord King is like you said, it's literally a stick 'em up.
This is the best. This is the best topic that I did not want to do ever. This has got to be, yo. I didn't know it was so much intrigue and corporate shenanigans going on. Like, yo, this has got to be the best. And I know that part of this segment is gonna be race. So. I just want y'all to understand, I'm having such a good time knowing that the bank robbers ran up to the bank and said, we got the goods upon you. Make sure you put the money in the bag.
Lord Attic, are you good on this topic before we end the show? Lord Attic,
look, when it comes to it, I enjoy that they have a little bit of a more probably person that was born around my generation being put into the president. And I'm not going to say, once again, I'm going to say, Iron Lord Podcast does not support piracy, but I am going to say, anyone that knows how to do this, hit someone up.
Holla at you. Holla at you, boy.
Yo, did he just say this? What is going on today?
Anyway, we're going to end this real quick. The question's up. Okay. When the news of a console exclusive from your preferred platform is also announced to go to PC, does this negatively affect your view of that console? The answers will be A, yes, exclusive on PC devalue the console I own. B, no, games on PC doesn't affect me as a console gamer. Or C, I don't care, PC Master Race rules you all. That is the question. Those are the choices. Please rock the vote. Hit the ILP Twitter poll when it goes up. Lord Jez, thank you for dealing with all the shenanigans in the realm.
Yes, what's
I
up?
apologize for going over a little bit longer than normal, but it was an absolute pleasure to have you, man. Thank you for coming through. Where can the fine people find you, and what other articles or projects do you have cooking up?
Well, I mentioned at the start, we're currently working on State of Decay 2 preview footage. Got tons of 4K footage to show off next week. Also, we've already written a preview, I believe, or to go live next week, I think. State of Decay 2. I'm not supposed to be able to talk about it, but it's shaping up quite nicely. You guys have played it at PAX and stuff like that.
It's
so I wasn't that excited about it. I'm a big fan of the original, but I saw it at E3 last year, and I wasn't that impressed with it at E3. But what I've seen now has made me a lot more interested in it. Seems a lot deeper than the first game. So, yeah, cool. Waiting for that. Other than that, I'm probably just going to be playing a load of Monster Hunter.
All right, I got a question for you, Lord Jez. Since you've played State of Decay, you said it's a lot. Oh well, no,
I haven't played the sequel.
All right, let's say in a perfect world you've played the sequel. Is there access to hack switches where I can play any game I want? I'm joking.
Wow, he's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. He's gonna leave that alone.
He can tell us that there's hack switches you can play in the
oh my
in State of Decay 2.
You're
play a Nintendo game and an Xbox game. Awesome. Do it.
Lord Jez, thank you so much for coming through. Let's do these outros. Let's get out. Lord
Yes,
Addict,
Lord
where
Jez.
can people find you?
Well, you can find me leaving the podcast, that's for sure.
You can find him in the bed sleeping.
Going to sleep.
Okay.
Anything
With
else
his
you got cooking
snuggie
up that
on.
people need to
He
know
got his
about?
snuggie on.
Well, actually, I don't have a Snuggie. To be honest with you, I might need to acquire one of those. I don't know. A Snuggie would be good in this podcast because you'd be putting me to sleep all the
Oh
time.
my
B.
God! Do you have
that's
anything
good.
you'd like to promote, Lord Addict, before you go?
I appreciate everyone coming by. Appreciate you, Jez, for coming by.
Mhm.
I'm out.
No doubt, Lord Sovereign. Pleasure to have as always. What do you got cooking up, or where can people find you?
Nowhere. I'll be playing.
You be offline, enjoying games, not be bothered by social media.
I'll be playing God of War.
Woo!
Yeah, but big shout out to Lord Jez for coming through, man. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
But
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a fun show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lord King. Oh my God, you were hilarious today. I can't even look at you without him. Where can the people?
Yo, first of all, I would like to say thank you for putting a voice to these crazy tweets. Oh man, Lord Jez, like really now, anytime you tweet, I'm gonna hear your voice, and it's fantastic. Thank you for coming through. Trust me, it puts a lot of things into context now. And I'm like, okay, I can hear the voice now. And then the whole history with the trolling, man, you are the best.
Yeah, he had a good
Fantastic. I actually
No one should pay attention to my tweets. They're all garbage.
No, listen, I'm gonna put you on first mentions now. Listen, I got a thing cooking up, guys, and I got this question, and I really want to know: do you want me to get a tattoo of the Iron Lords at E3 on my chest right here on this side? You know, the logo. Or do you want me to do the one chip challenge? Now, if y'all don't know about this Pacquiao chip, is like the hottest jalapeno ghost chip
Yes,
ever.
Now, all you, bro.
Yeah, it's all me. Yeah, listen, I got no problem with that.
I want you to get a tattoo of your World of Warcraft girlfriend.
Oh, listen, yo, I can tell you her name right now too, Glendia. So I don't know if it's gonna be one or two or both, but the details is coming out. We working on the Patreon. The Patreon is gonna go up, and then y'all can actually vote with your dollars, saying we're gonna put King in that chair, and it's gonna be live. You can watch me go.
Can we vote to find your World of Warcraft girlfriend?
Yeah, y'all can do that too, but I probably right now she's running through the streets of Warcraft, doing other things with other guys. You know?
Was she an elf?
Yes.
I knew it.
Oh, Lord Jez sound like he know that girl.
Yes. Because listen, elves are the sexiest ones. That's why he knows that. And listen, he had a wife too. Yo, listen, you can catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything social. But I'm really serious about this. I want you guys to either tune in and check me die by fire of mouth, or you can catch me dying by the needle. So I don't know which way you want me to die, but let me figure it out.
He's gonna figure out his death. Lord Cognito here. The gaming realness has been spread once again. Thank you, Lord Jez, for coming through. Huge fan of you. That you are absolutely awesome just to deal with all the foolishness here in the round. I give you a lot of credit, man. Shout out to you. We love what you're doing. Also, I want to shout out to all the people in the chat. Chat was absolutely lit tonight. Today. Fantastic. Everybody's fun, engaging. We got a lot of things cooking up, like Lord King said, as far as Patreon, all the other good stuff. Also, want to shout out Lord Cal in the network today. The chat. He actually, please check out his latest interview. He had Turn 10 Studios. That's the tongue twister for Quantic. So please catch that. It was really informative. Obviously, the multiverse is going to go up tomorrow. They're going to talk all about Infinity War. Make sure you guys go hit that. Infinity War definitely will shake the world. And I
might have to jump on that podcast tomorrow night.
Shout out to Anchorman. Shout out to Fame shout out to Fame coming through in the chat.
Fame. Yeah, for real. Shout out.
We saw a lot of the multiverse. They always show us love, support us. Thanks everybody hitting that like and all that good stuff.
Hit me up.
On the Destiny front, 5.13 was up with Ebontis. We're talking about all the latest stuff going on with the Warmind for anybody who cares. And that's that. But everyone, please enjoy your Sunday. Have a good time. We're out of here. Peace.